Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Studs and Scrubs podcast. I am one of your hosts, Stu Coffee, and with me, as always, is Nick Strum. Nick, how you doing?
What up? What up? I'm doing great, man. Beautiful day out here in central Illinois. We had this polar vortex come through last week. And so, like, temperatures were in the single digits to teens, feels like was negatives. And today it's like 45 degrees outside. It's almost summer.
Okay,
So,
that is very nice because we had a similar effect, but obviously a lot warmer in Florida, where now I'd be curious of the temperature difference. You jumped about 50 degrees. I
yeah.
feel like we did not jump that much. But the other day, I went to work and didn't check the weather because it's Florida. And so I just head out to the car. And I had kind of like just showered and got my coffee and ran. So I
Yeah.
wasn't, cold. But I'm walking to the car like, whoa, where's my jacket? Like it's actually cold. What the heck? So then I'm driving to work and I see the, thing, temperature comes up on your car, right?
Yeah.
And it was like 35, feels like 31.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, okay, hold on. I mean,
Yeah.
I said on the pod before, I live close to Tampa. So, like, it doesn't get very cold. And then the high was, in the 50s.
Hmm.
And then today I was going to go to the park. It was like 75 and sunny. So I'm like, okay, 40
Nice.
degree swing in with 2 days or something, 3 days. But
Yeah.
anyways, weather aside, I heard it was cold all over the place, including Montreal, Canada, and Montreal,
Ooh.
Quebec, and
Yes.
Boston, Massachusetts, coming down from the Four Nations Hangover. What an
Oh,
amazing tournament! I mean, pretty much every game
awesome.
was awesome, start to finish. I'd say probably the U.S. Finland game was maybe the least exciting, quote unquote, but if you watched it, period one and two were really close, and then USA kind of ran away with it. If you're a
Yeah.
USA fan, sweet, you got to see a bunch of goals. But the whole tournament was just awesome. I loved it so much, and I gotta say that you and I look like geniuses because every hockey outlet and podcast I've listened to, most people thought it was gonna be so-so, more intense than an all-star game. But come on, it's exhibition. Nobody's
Yeah.
trying hard. Nobody's trying to hurt anyone. It's going to be a skills competition of the best players in the world, and certainly no fights. Certainly
Yeah.
not three in the first 9 seconds.
I will say
Certainly not.
I do feel like I said that it wasn't going to be very physical, that I thought it was going to be kind of like the Olympics, and I was wrong
Oh,
on that.
well, then I
Uh,
look like a genius because I
you
said
look
that
like
they're
the
going to
genius.
kill each
Yes.
other.
Yeah. I think I was more on the team of Olympic hockey skill, no grit. Um,
A nothing tournament, a skills
Yeah, just
competition.
kind of a nothing tournament that no one really was going to care about mid-season. Maybe that they weren't not going to care about it, but just I certainly did not expect the level of emotion that we saw and the level of intensity that we saw.
Definitely.
But I loved it. Loved
So
it.
good. So good. And all it really did for me was because it was so great. It was awesome to watch hockey that was passionate and meaningful. When you're rooting for Team USA, they have a legitimate chance to win international
Yeah.
competition anytime. So it's like, as a Red Wings fan, you haven't really had that edge of your seat playoff hockey in so long. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
And with
Yeah.
Larkin out there doing so well, I loved
Yeah.
that every outlet I heard was talking about how more attention on Larkin. Why aren't people talking about Larkin?
Yeah.
Larkin's so good. He's a winger on the fourth line. He's like almost not on the team.
Yeah.
And he's taking a face off with Matthews on the wing in the championship game.
Yeah.
And he switched a wing like on that line. But I mean, and yes, Matthew Kachuk got hurt and couldn't play. Might have bumped Larkin up a bit. But man, it was so cool to watch him in that situation, the whole Team USA just shutting down, almost winning, this close to being the best team in the world. Granted, Russia's not there, but I do feel like Russia is probably third best on paper. I
Yeah, it
still
would have
think
been interesting.
USA are
Um,
above.
Yeah, they definitely would have put out a star-studded team for sure. So it would have changed the whole dynamic of the tournament, probably, depending on
Right.
then you got Canada, Russia, U.S. Um,
And,
so
they're as far as I understand it, Russia's not allowed to play because of political situation, right?
yeah,
And I think it's mostly stemming from the Ukraine-Russian war, right?
I believe
So
so. Yeah.
that is obviously drastically more egregious than anything else politically between the four nations.
Yeah.
However, that's a political issue, and then all of a sudden politics are involved in the four nations no one really expected when they planned it last year. And
Yeah.
it's like, if anything, it almost added to like because I mean, I understand why people are mad about political stuff, but it's like it just gave it that extra bump
Yeah.
of like, not really hatred for because the players do sort of hate each other, right? They respect each other, but they're
I
like, I
mean,
hate
just
losing to you.
that extra burst of passion that they needed. And the U.S. has been
Exactly.
kind of labeled the little brother to
Yeah.
Canada for so long now. And I
Mhm.
mean, the results are there. I do kind of hate the fact that U.S. beat Canada and then lost to them. So really, we're 500 against them in the tournament,
Right.
but they
And you don't
won
get
the
a
thing. And I mean, I get that's how it works, but it's like, oh my goodness. And I knew when we were playing Canada again, it's like this is not, it's not going to be the same team. It's hard to beat a team twice like that. You got Crosby and McDavid on the other side. I don't care who else you got. I mean, you got they step up in those big moments like that,
they do.
and I mean, but it was a great game. You couldn't have asked for a better final. I think it was like
I
the
agree.
most watched hockey game in however many years or something. On
Yeah. I don't
with
remember
all the
the numbers
viewers and
exactly,
stuff.
but the
So
most viewed in a long time.
yeah, definitely
And
gave hockey a bump. There were people texting me that like a group chat of my college buddies were texting me, and dude, we were just cracking jokes about hockey because none of them really pay attention.
yeah.
And it's like we're all hockey fans tonight, and it's like you haven't watched hockey since the Mighty Ducks, and all
Yeah.
this different stuff. And my brother-in-law's texting me about the game, so I mean, it just kind of provided this spark for hockey, almost like the World Cup does for soccer. I mean, it was Olympic international stuff, right? Every 4 years, we get more patriotic, and people watch the Olympics, and people watch hockey that don't normally just because it's for
Exactly.
country and for pride. And so that's what this was, just in a real condensed, and I love that. It was just, every other day you got some games going on, and yeah, those games were so meaningful because you only played your little round robin and then to get to the final. So I love the whole thing. Obviously, I would have loved to have seen the U.S. win it, but you couldn't have asked for a better final championship game than that. To go to overtime like that, and for the intensity, U.S. Canada, just everything you wanted, you got. So
Especially 100% agree with everything you're saying. And hockey's in kind of a unique situation where, yeah, the Saturday night fights is awesome, and the Kachuk brothers maybe bring the intensity up with a little bit of the WWE kind of
yeah,
swagger, and the we're gonna fight, I don't care who it is, etc. And it's like you got to give people like Brandon Hagel some props. I thought when that fight started, I was like, whoa, oh my god, they're fighting off the start, and then I thought Brendan Hagel's going to get his face caved in, and
yeah,
that was pretty even. I thought he did fine.
yeah,
And Sam Bennett's a tough customer, but Brady Kachuk's way bigger than him. And
yeah.
then you flip it,
JT Miller,
Miller is tough as nails, but Pareko was way bigger than him.
bigger, yeah,
And so it was like three great tilts and all that. But even without the fights, even the Sweden versus Canada opener game and everything,
mm,
and Canada Finland played on the holiday during the daytime, right? So I couldn't watch it. I was at work, and I wanted to just try to sneak and watch it on my phone, but I was actually training for this new thing, so I couldn't at all. I couldn't even pick the scores. So it's like they kind of crapped the bed a little bit, let up 3 goals in like 5 minutes, and then they're down, I think 4-0, and came back and made it 4-3.
mm,
So it was like just the whole tournament, start to finish, so good. And with hockey right now, it's like the NBA is struggling with some of their ratings, right? A lot of people are complaining their All Star was a joke, that no one plays defense. It's like no one tries for the playoffs, blah blah blah. Even the Super Bowl, unless you're an Eagles fan or an anti-Chiefer, like
yeah,
was maybe not a letdown, but it was like a blowout.
yeah,
So it's like you got this void in sports right when the tournament starts, right when political tension between USA and Canada hits the fan out of kind of pretty much nowhere, right? And
yeah,
it's like, okay, well, boom. explosion of excitement. And like you're saying with the World Cup, there's lots of people who would only watch soccer during the World Cup,
Yeah.
especially in the United States. But as big as soccer is, you usually are kind of watching your club, just like we're watching the Red Wings. Well, okay, now it's time for the World Cup. You're rooting for your nation. Well, okay, imagine a world where the best professionals aren't playing in the World Cup
Yeah.
for 3 World Cups in a row. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they go, okay, we're not having the full World Cup, but we're going to have France, England, Germany, and Spain in a little baby miniature tournament, and all the big dogs are playing. I mean, that's the type of explosion. I know soccer's tenfold hockey, but it's like the passion just overflowed, I think, once the players were on the ice and the fans were feeling it. It was like, go USA! Everyone's
Oh,
watching,
for sure.
everyone's rooting,
Well, these
and
players haven't played, they haven't had a chance to play for their country in a while,
yeah,
right? Some of
right.
these guys, some of these young guys, this is the first time throwing on a USA jersey or a Canada jersey, whatever. So you have that from their perspective where they're jacked and excited to finally be playing for their country.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was the Olympics or the NHL that nixed NHL players from playing in the Olympics most recently.
Yeah. I don't
But
know who pulls the trigger, but I think they got in a fight over the insurance. If someone gets hurt, who pays for it?
who pays for it? Yeah. And so I mean there's all those the red tape and all that stuff. But if you're the NHL, you want your I know that it's 2 weeks in the middle of the season and it's a break and it throws it all off for the Olympics, but you want and need the NHL star power playing on the world's biggest stage. I think we
Yep.
saw that here. People that love hockey will still watch Olympic hockey without NHL stars. But
Yes.
if you want to grow the NHL, this was the perfect way to do it. You have the best players from the NHL
Yep.
representing their countries and going at it. So all these young players, I mean, just think about all these players that no one really maybe knew before, some of the casual fans. Now they're kind of invested. You got this Four Nations tournament. They're
Yeah.
watching. Who are these Kachuk brothers?
Yeah.
What's going on? And
Dad,
so,
oh, your dad played too. Oh, yeah.
yeah, so now they know who they are. Now we're going back to the NHL, and now these guys are playing, and they
Hmm.
can see, oh, this person's on my local team, or I liked watching so and so. I'm going to start rooting for that team. Whereas in the Olympics, when it's just amateurs, it's hard to get invested in those guys because you haven't heard of them, you haven't really seen them play. And once the Olympics are over, where do those guys go?
Where'd
You
they go?
can't. They're
Where'd
not
they
in the
go back?
NHL. So this was perfect. You got and we have so many young players in the league. Uh, the Hughes brothers would have loved to have seen Quinn Hughes play for us, but you still got Jack Hughes. The Kachuk brothers, my goodness, are they not going to cash in the next time they go to sign a contract? Are you kidding me? Brady
I,
Kachuk made himself some money this tournament, dude. Let me tell you.
I, I've got to say on that note, sorry to interrupt,
No, you're
Brady
good.
uh, just catapulted up my radar too. Like,
Yes.
you're talking about making money, definitely. At least I would guess, you know, probably maybe $10 million because I'm thinking it's at least 1 million, maybe two AAV, right? So if
Yeah.
he's going to sign an 8-year deal, he's probably looking between 10 and 11 million. I'm guessing. Well, the cap's going up, so he is instantly jumping. If Rantanen wants 14 million to be the same as Draisaitl, Brady's the captain of the team and just showed in this tournament that if you get him into the playoffs, if you put him in the highest stakes possible, he's going to rise up.
Yeah.
You saw Larkin, you saw Brady Kachuk, Matthew Kachuk, you saw a few players. Matthews, by the way, is so much better on defense than I realized.
Yeah.
I was really blown away by his 200-foot game. I know people talk about it. I didn't watch it much.
Minus
Oh,
the last.
the very end there, maybe slipped out of his
Okay.
hand. But okay,
Yeah.
but all that to say though is yes, Brady Kachuk. Everyone's been talking about how awesome he is, and can't you just see him in the playoffs? I guess I don't watch enough Senators games,
Well,
but I
that's the
was
thing.
always
Who
like,
does?
Yeah, and it was maybe like I never was stupid enough
They
to get on
haven't been in the
the
playoffs. I just saw a graphic today that he is in because the Caps played the Oilers, and Jeff Skinner has played over 1,000 games, never played a single
Yeah,
playoff game. Brady Tkachuk is on that list for most regular season games without a playoff game. I didn't realize Brady Tkachuk's been in this league for like 7 years. He's 25. He's played almost 500 games, never played in the playoffs. You saw what he would be like in the playoffs. You're
yeah,
telling me right now, a month before the deadline or whenever it is for the NHL, that a team's not going to go out there and try and make a move for him at some point. Maybe it's not this year, but
yeah,
he got to put on display what is like for him playing in meaningful games, winner take all. This is for all the marbles. Play with all your pride and passion, and so teams got to see him
yeah,
on full display what it would be like. And I'm telling you, there's a handful of teams out there, probably more, that are taking a hard look at that and saying, "Whew, okay." If I'm the Red Wings, and you
yep,
got all kinds of, I'm hearing little bits of whatever, and I don't know how real it is, but hey, why not give up some prospects and pick? Because it's going to take a bit to get them. Now the Senators know what they got. They got more leverage now that. Um, but okay, this guy's 25. I'd give up some draft picks and young prospect. He's not a
yeah,
prospect, but he's 25. He's got a solid 10 years in front of him of what you're going to get. Give up some draft picks and prospects and get this guy in there now, especially if you're a
literally,
team that is close to winning the cup. It reminded me of when the Wings couldn't get over that hump in the late 90s and they went out and got a Brendan Shanahan. I'm not saying Brady Tkachuk is Brendan Shanahan, but he is that. He can score goals for you, and he's the gritty,
yep,
tough guy. And so just that right power combination for a power forward, he's that guy that can put your team over the hump.
yes, yes, 1,000, yes. He is that type of player. I don't know if
Yes.
he'll get 500 goals, whatever Shanahan
Right,
has,
probably
but
not. Shanny was probably more of a point producer than Kachuk is, but just
mhm.
that combination of skill and grit and toughness,
A real
oh,
true power forward.
few
And
players in the league have that right now.
few players, and and the fact that both Kachuk brothers have it is kind of crazy. And they
Yeah,
start the tournament on different lines, and it's like somebody was saying, well, it's a little bit redundant, right? They play the same way. You break them up to spread it around,
yeah,
but it's the same problem with Canada's skill, right? They go, well, let's McDavid and McKinnon don't put on the same line. Let's break up the speed,
right.
and it's like you overload them. When they before they got hurt, there was a few shifts. Maybe I don't know. I mean, a lot of shifts. It was one game, I think,
Yeah,
that they did Eichel with both Kachuk brothers.
yes,
Right, I think was the line, and it was like first of all Eichel, another one that like we've all known how good he is now. He gets the cup and he's a stud, but like seeing him in that type of situation where he's no tough guy, but he's
yeah,
big and strong and he's the skill dude, and the other
hmm
two are just running amok. But they're not, even one of our favorite players, Darren McCarty. Darren McCarty
yeah,
could contribute offensively sometimes. We all know the famous game where with the fights and the wins, but it's like over his whole career, he was a tough guy.
yeah,
You know, Brendan Shanahan was a power forward. The Kachuk brothers are power forwards. They are elite goal scorers and running amok. And yeah, Brady, to be honest, I would look at it and people would say, he's so good, he's so good, he's so good. The Kachuk brothers, okay, Matthews goes and gets 100 points in a Stanley Cup, and then Brady Kachuk's putting up 70, 80 points, and I'm like, I mean, he's big and strong, but I don't really see it. Well, maybe it's just the Ottawa vacuum, because when you put him with the caliber of play of Werenski and Slavin and Hannafin and his brother and Matthews and Eichel, all of a sudden it's like this dude is incredible. And
yeah.
I really kind of undersold him. I think in my head, I just thought, yeah, he's good, but he doesn't get points.
Right.
He'd get points if he played with Barkov and Sam Reinhart.
Yeah,
I'm telling you that right now.
yeah,
So yes, there was lots of players I think in the tournament that upped their stock, but probably none as big as Brady. I don't know when his contract ends, but you look at someone like Larkin, I feel like everyone is now going to look and say, "Holy crap! I didn't know he was that good."
yeah.
And his contract's a steal, but he's locked in.
Right.
So it's maybe Raymond potentially, but he's locked in. There's a few people that I think really up their trade value, and you could argue there's a few who dropped it.
Yeah.
Rantanen and Elias Pettersson both didn't do much. And
Yeah.
I've been beating the Ricard Raquel train all the fantasy, talking about how he got subbed from the team. He played pretty good. He got called
Yeah.
up because of injury, right?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the real market, trade market, and fantasy.
Yes.
We won't talk about that much this podcast, but Ryan Callahan and somebody else were saying they got interviewed for something because they're there, right? They were saying that they played the best hockey of their life coming back from the Olympics
Mm,
sometimes because it's like that playoff game 7 intensity.
yeah.
And you can't just turn it off. You come
Right.
back and you're just like. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see who's got a Four Nations hangover or who got hurt, Matthew Tkachuk,
Yeah.
versus who got
Which,
the rest because we just watched Ovechkin rip
well,
the
and I
league
will
in half.
say, that I threw a little bit of money on the Caps yesterday against
Ooh,
Pittsburgh because
smashed them.
the Capitals were the only team without a single player in the Four
Yeah.
Nations Cup. I said these guys are going to be rested when they come back. Crosby just got done with this high intensity,
Yep.
high emotional tournament, and the rest of the Pittsburgh just is trash. So,
Right.
he's not going to be able to carry this team against a team that's had 2 weeks off essentially to get back to 100%. And I mean, today the Capitals just killed the Oilers 7-3. Ovechkin with a hat trick. Insane. They've scored 15 goals in the last 2 games. Yesterday they scored 8 goals,
Eight.
and Ovi didn't have a single point.
Eight. And Ovi doesn't have I mean, how crazy is that sentence?
Yeah.
For 20 years, if the Capitals scored 8 goals, it wouldn't be totally unheard of. It's still a lot of goals, but
Yeah.
they had a lot of 5 goal games. They had a lot of 6 goal
Right.
games. And you go, well, Ovechkin had a hat trick and 1 assist. It is what it
Yeah.
is. Backman got one, Oshie got one, John Carlson got one. They're a good team. They won the President's Trophy. Last year, they shouldn't have even made the playoffs. This year, they get a 2-week break where nobody's on Four Nations, and there's probably 2 or 3 guys that should be on Four Nations. Tom
Yes.
Wilson that they were missing when they dropped the gloves, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And they beat their opponents 15-6.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you probably don't want to let 3 goals in, but the Penguins' third goal yesterday was I actually had that game on in the background because it was tied 2-2, and then it was like I looked up and said, oh, "It's 6-2.
Yeah.
What happened?" Their third goal made it 7-3. It was so late, and then the Capitals scored again. No empty netters, 8-3.
Yeah.
And yeah, you let up 3 goals back to back, but you're not even playing. Today they played their backup, right? They played
Lindgren. Yes.
Lindgren, who's very good,
Against
but
the Oilers.
against
McDavid and
the
Draisaitl.
Oilers.
Yeah.
Against the Oilers. Which here's my fantasy beef. It was my fault. I forgot to check because Saturday there's all the games, Four Nations, it's back. I set my lineup with the auto setup. So I didn't go in to check. Today I caught it. 2 days in a row, Leon Draisaitl in the bench. It's like Yahoo's default to be like, he's not very good.
Yeah.
So today I said, well, I'll make sure I played him, but everyone else is playing. I got some good people, right? I got Mitch Marner. I got After Matthews. So I say, okay, Nugent Hopkins, he's okay, but he's not doing that good. Golden assist. So anyways, all that to say, the rest, I think, is a good sign that it's like maybe there's certain people that can ride that high, but the whole team was off for 2 weeks.
And you got to think some of those guys are probably a little ticked off that they couldn't play in the tournament. Maybe they felt like they got snubbed or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Caps seem to be on fire right now. I don't know what the numbers are, but I know that they have a pretty even distribution of 20 goal scorers, double-digit goal scorers.
Yeah.
So I mean, they can beat you in a variety of ways. It's just kind of crazy.
I wouldn't want to play him. I wouldn't want to. I've been kind of saying that, like, I would, even though they're in first place, I'd rather play them than the Panthers. I'd rather play them than the Maple Leafs. That's probably it. They're probably number 3 in my mind in the East, but I don't know anymore. It's every week they keep getting better. There's no drop off. There's no like the Ovechkin Magic's run out. Here's the other guy in fantasy I sat back-to-back days, Protoss. And I shouldn't because every time I play him, he gets a point, and every time I bench him, he gets a point. Yeah. He's basically a point per game player. Like, I don't know what pace he's on right off the top of my head, but
Hmm.
he literally might be close to 80 on pace because he has gotten a
Oh,
lot of points this year.
yeah. So let me ask you this question. This is a not necessarily fantasy, but I was thinking about this while I was watching the game today, and
Mhm.
thinking about how um, balanced of a team the Caps are. And I don't know that anybody thought that they were going to be this good. So if you're Ovechkin, he's got one more year on his contract. He's on pace right now to break Gretzky's record this year. If he breaks it this season, oh gosh, I don't want to even say it. I'll jinx him. If he breaks the record and wins the Stanley Cup, does he just say, "Peace out, I'm done," or does he come back for one more go,
Wow. Well,
one more
let's get rid
season?
of these jinx. Throw some salt and some
Yeah.
sage. Um, the,
I
man,
mean, I
I don't
guess
know.
it.
I feel
I
like he would probably finish it out, but also like that dude probably will when he retires, and certainly if he wants to, he can make endless money to go play in Moscow
Oh, for
whenever
sure.
he feels like it.
Yeah.
And even if he's older and he's retired, it's like as incredible as Datsuk was, if
Oh
Ovechkin
yeah.
beats Gretzky's record, I mean that's going way back to the '70s, right? This USA versus Canada rivalry is not new, but it is newer where it's like USA is not an underdog. We are
Yeah.
the two top teams. It always used to be Canada, Russia. So you are going. We came to your country. I learned English. I played in the U.S. Capitol. I beat Gretzky's record. I am the greatest player who ever lived. We are the greatest nation at hockey. That's the narrative for a Russian. We're not allowed to play in the Olympics because they're afraid of us because we're going to win.
Oh
That's
yeah.
their story.
Right.
Kucherov's better than McKinnon. Oh, McKinnon won an MVP. That's weird. I had more points. You better believe Russia's point of view is that they're better,
Yeah.
and there's no way that an unbiased person would maybe say, they're good, but probably Canada's number one and USA might be number two. A Russian believes they're the best.
Yeah.
So if he can go home and say, yeah, I'm 40, but I like beer and hot dogs, and I'm going to play for CSK Moscow, they just give him endless money. I mean, he'll just make so much money. He'd be so famous already. He is, but you know what I mean? Like,
He'll
he's
be
going to be
Yager.
like,
He doesn't have to. I mean, he's just going to go to every game
he'll be
and
like
just
Shomi
sell
Itagi
out.
in Japan, right?
He's
It's
just going to sell out. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
well, Austin lives there, right? I don't know if I said it in the pod,
Yeah.
but my brother lives in Japan, and he said, "Oh, you don't even understand. You cannot believe he's not even famous. He's not even a baseball player. I mean, he's like a god
Yeah.
in Japan. It's like there's nobody else in the whole world even plays sports.
Yeah.
He's the only one, and he's like that whole I made $600 million in baseball. My brother's like nothing compared to what he makes in just the
Right.
merchandise and the crap just in Japan,
Yeah.
let alone the US. So these people that are from other countries, they've got two revenue streams just by the nature of it,
Hmm.
just by being the best Russian who ever lived. You know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
that was a bit of a rant, but to your question, if they won the cup, maybe. He might say, go out on a high.
Here's what I think though. As awesome as that would be, I think it's it happened in such a tiny window. I think he had full intentions of still playing next year, and I think he still does. So for him to, it would happen so quick to be like, broke the record, won the cup. Oh, I'm going to be done. I
Yeah,
just don't
true.
see that being now let's say something happens and he's 5 goals shy this year by the end of the season. And then next year he's coming in, he's only got 5 goals to go to break the record. Then you have off season to think about it. You're like, all right, this probably be my last season. It's my last year of my contract. It's just a little more deliberate.
Yeah,
I think right now it'd kind of just be a little reactive thing. And I mean, quite honestly, it's always fun to see guys go out on top, right?
yeah,
Um, but I don't want him to go out on top too early.
right.
And Ovi is still obviously like he's doing this year. He's still producing. It's
Yeah,
not like he's gonna limp out. And it's like, oh man, I don't want to see Ovi, play like this. He's not his old self. He's just kind of struggling, and you're just like, man, just be done. Just hang it up. That's not Ovi's not there yet.
right.
And so if he breaks Gretzky's record and then wins the cup this year, even more weight off your shoulder. I think he just comes back and he just has so much fun. All right, this is my last year. I'm a cup
Yeah,
champ, broke the record. He can play so loose and fancy free that it would be so much fun for him, I think. So
yes,
I don't necessarily see it. It'd make for a great story, oh, break the record, win the cup, go out on top, right off into the
yeah.
sunset.
Take
But
my
I
ball
just
to
don't see
home.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
That's yeah. No, you're probably right that he would stick around. Interesting question, but I see like Flurry right now, right,
yeah,
where it's planned a bit.
right.
That makes sense to some of these legends, even kind of because they've already won cups, right? Flurry and Ovechkin
Yeah,
and people like that. I feel like Joe Thornton had a similar thing where it was like I kind of want to play more, but like I've maybe had 3, 4 seasons of decline. Yager, right, where they're still like
yeah.
producing, they're still good at hockey, but it's like you're starting to even at Chelios, like you're starting to get diminishing returns, and it's getting harder and harder and harder on the body, and eventually they kind of fizzle out. Where you can plan it a bit more, like you know what,
Yeah.
next year I'm done. That's going to be, I planned it. I decided in the off season that this is the final show, and you're getting the standing ovations and to go into other teams and
And
getting
if
the, thank
and
you
some
for
yeah,
playing.
some players like that. They want to ride off in the sunset and they want that farewell tour. I think Fleury said that he didn't really want that, but he's kind of getting it, and
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that, especially a guy that's played for 20 years, getting his respect. And I think it's you know. I get that it can kind of be a distraction everywhere you go, and that's more the narrative rather than the team.
Yeah.
But I mean, you are kind of deserving of it, and especially
Mhm.
Fleury, who could go down as one of the top five goalies of all time. Um,
Yeah. And
so
the Penguins kind of did him dirty a little bit, and I feel like
it's
every Penguins fan wishes he still played there.
oh for sure,
Like, yeah,
especially
he's 40 now, and maybe he's not the starter, but like he's still pretty
yeah,
darn good at hockey.
yeah. So I think if Ovechkin wants it, then all he has to do is say, "Hey, this year's my last," or "Next year's my last year," and he'll get it everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, there's an easy no. I'm not saying I'm going to retire after this season. It's the last year of your contract, and you just say, "Yeah, I might after this season sign a 1 or 2 year deal or something," and just to get you through, and then you can in the off season or whatever, or you go in full well knowing that you're not going to come back if you want to avoid that farewell tour. But I think the fans, it's nice. It's a nice way for the league, the teams, the fans to just kind of show their appreciation everywhere you're going, and you're getting gifts and all that stuff, and standing ovations, and they're doing tribute videos and all that stuff. I understand that a lot of these guys don't want that attention, but it is just a nice way for the fans and teams and other players even to show their appreciation for what
Definitely.
these guys' careers have meant. And a lot. Fleury's old enough now that there's half the goalies in the league probably were he was their role model growing up.
Yeah.
We saw that even with the Four Nations and people saying that about Sidney Crosby. He's been in the league for 20 years, and
Yeah.
some of those guys on Team Canada have been that was their guy growing up. He was their, that's who they looked up to, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But so I do think some of these guys are deserving, and if that's how they want to roll out, I don't have a problem with it. Especially guys like an Ovechkin who has spent his whole career with a team.
Yes.
So that is so rare. Crosby, I don't. I know that there's a lot of chatter about, he could be traded or they'll just blow the team up and whatever, and they'll send him off to a contender. Why? I mean, unless Crosby really wants that,
Right.
what does he have left to prove? He's got 3 cups. At the pace he's going, by the time he retires, he'll be top five all time in scoring. Stay in Pittsburgh. Be that
Yeah.
Pittsburgh legend that you played your whole career with. He'll probably end up just following Mario Lemieux, being a part owner, front office guy. I mean, just everything with
Everything.
Pittsburgh, with one team. And I'm not a Pittsburgh fan, but it's so cool to see. I love seeing when that happens.
Yes.
Um, Especially with guys that have won the cup. Different story if the Penguins are terrible and Crosby hasn't won a cup yet.
Yep. Yep.
Like Ray Borick, okay, hey, you devoted 20 years to this city, this organization. and now they're trash at the end of at the end of your storied Hall of Fame career, and you want a chance to go play for a cup. I think at that point, the organization, the team, out of respect for you, kind of knows where they're at and says, "Okay, you know what? You're right.
Yeah,
Let's find a spot for you."
definitely. I agree with everything you're saying. And, there are people that, like, maybe they should have, maybe they had a chance. And it comes to mind Carey Price, right?
Yeah,
Maybe he should have had a Ray Bork year where, they gave up the prospects to get him to go to whatever, a Dallas or somebody like that, right? And
yeah,
got him one. Okay, well, the COVID year was a weird year, but that was sort of his Cinderella, right? That
hmm
was on the back of Carey Price. The whole team played great, but it was, come on.
yeah,
They're in every game because he's there, and they get close to an upset, kind of get smushed by the Lightning. But it's like those type of people, the Lundqvist. It was this close. Their team was good, but then it fell off. There's certain people like Hasek and Bork and some people that, like, their team was bad pretty much their whole career. Hasek almost
yeah,
went, right? Then he goes to the Red Wings, he grabs one on a totally stacked team. But, same thing with
yeah.
Bork. I don't know how close the Bruins claim. I don't think they were very good when he played there. Maybe earlier in his career they were good.
I think early '90s,
Yeah.
they lost in the Cup Finals a time or two, but yeah,
But
other than that, they
right,
were kind of
his
going
claim,
down. Yeah,
but like, to your point, Ovechkin, Sakic, Crosby, Yzerman, right?
yeah,
Lemieux. There's these people that are absolute total legends, tippy top of their time when they played, and they stay with the team the whole time. Sakic becomes GM of Avs. I know Yzerman was in Tampa, but then he's the GM of the Red Wings. It's like Mario Lemieux becomes the owner, the GM, the captain, the player, the
yeah,
coach. Like, there's these mythical people in sports,
yeah,
and I think that's Crosby's mindset. It's That's cooler to him than grabbing one more. I know
yeah,
he's a champion and he puts it all on the line, but he just won Four Nations. How about the stat that he's only lost one time ever in a Canadian jersey? Is freaky. Granted, there was a 10-year gap where they didn't play, but it's like all the way from when he was like 14 years old, right? I mean, that's insane. He's never lost a game until the U.S. But now, next year at the Olympics, Canada has a very good chance to win the Olympics.
yeah,
Okay, so then he's going to be 38, 39 years old with golds across the board, hopefully a silver next year, and 3 cups. Why would he go and,
yeah,
him and Nathan McKinnon are from the same province? Okay, Oprah and Michael Jordan live in Chicago.
yeah,
What's your point? Who cares? I don't see it. I'm with you. Just retire with the one team. Be that rare legend person, because Ovechkin, Crosby, and a few other people, they don't get traded for business decisions. If
right,
Crosby walks in the door and says, "Sign me for 8.7 million because I'm a weird, superstitious
yeah,
nutcase," if he walked in there and said, "In the CBA, the rules say that the maximum a player can make is 30% of the salary cap. I want exactly 30%. I don't care who you fire. They better get a pen ready."
right,
Okay, I'm telling you that those type of people, Crosby gets traded if he wants to get traded. If he wants to stay, he stays.
right,
End of story. I think.
and
Now,
yeah,
technically, they can trade, right? I mean, it'd be a PR nightmare if you traded him and he said, "I don't want to leave Pittsburgh."
yes, yeah,
They'd come to your house and burn it down.
yeah. And so that's why I don't think it's going to happen. Just because even if Crosby doesn't want it I mean, if he doesn't want it to happen and you trade him anyway, Crosby's going to let it be known. I wanted to stay in Pittsburgh, and
Oh yeah.
then so um,
But yeah,
this,
how about when Gensel got traded? He said, "I was sad to see. I didn't want him to leave."
yeah,
Right. So if it was himself,
right,
he'd say it. But anyways, all that to say, I mean, like, whatever. Ovechkin is looking good to break the record. We are running out of games, but he just got 3. So
I think that puts him what 12 behind, 13 to break. Is that
maybe
right?
I gotta look it up. I was thinking
Yeah,
we're close to 15. So
I think he's at 88, 82
getting
after.
dang close.
Yeah, I think he's at 882
What,
after
what do we got?
today's game.
25 games left, so it's
Yeah.
looking positive.
So Yeah, so this kind of will segue into my studs and scrubs a little bit, but the whole what we were talking about here with the guys being on the whole same team and all that stuff, I I love it. I think it shows. I think that's what a lot of people don't like about the NBA is these super teams, right? Guys don't can't beat a team year after year, so then they join them or they go
Yeah,
somewhere else. They team up and all this stuff. It all started with LeBron and all that. And I'm not. This isn't a basketball podcast, so I'm not going to
right.
talk about
They
this.
went to the
But
Heat or whatever, and they were unstoppable or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
So back in 2018, when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, I had a guy out here that did not like how Ovechkin was celebrating. They won the cup in Vegas. He's out in the clubs. They're swimming in fountains in DC and Vegas, doing all these crazy things. All
yeah,
these videos and everything. And it's like, oh, come on, he's acting childish and blah blah blah. This is what you want. This person in particular was complaining about NBA players and how they team up and all that stuff. Okay, well, here's Ovechkin, who at that point in time had played, 12, 13, 14 years in the league, was being labeled as the best player to never win a Stanley Cup,
yeah.
sticks with Washington. They finally win. He gets the monkey off his back. They go through Pittsburgh that year
Right.
and now he's letting it all out. This is what you want. You want to see that childhood
Yeah.
dream come true, excitement, the passion, just all the emotion in that. You don't want to see Ovechkin say, "All right, I've played here 10 years, let me go join the Penguins because I can't beat them."
Right.
No.
And then
No one
Crosby and
wants to
Ovechkin
see
win
that.
together. No one wants to see that.
No one wants to see that. That's why I like seeing these guys stick with their team. And I understand that there can be situations, and quite honestly, I thought the Capitals were going to be one of them, where they were just going to be trash then for Ovechkin's last few years.
Yep. Chase the
Uh,
record, nothing else.
right.
But
Um,
nope.
but yeah, now they're killing it. So I like seeing these guys, these players be committed to their teams. Um, and who knows what's going to end up with, I'll say this, I don't really see McDavid and Matthews being lifers on the teams that they're on, but I don't know that. If Matthews, um, how much more fun or, whatever the word is I'm trying to think of here, if Matthews stays with Toronto and breaks the curse, wins a cup with Toronto,
Yeah.
is that what you want to see, or do you want to see Austin Matthews say, "Screw this, I can't win. Let me go to Florida so I can get a cup"?
Right. Right.
Come on,
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
yeah. So I like
Florida. No.
seeing those guys stick with it, and that's why I think the NBA is trash. I'm not a NBA guy, sorry, but so that leads me to my studs and scrubs. Okay, so all the All Star games, you're talking the NBA All Star game, which was over this Four Nations break.
Mm-hmm.
They the biggest complaint is there's no defense. They don't play defense in regular season games anyway. But um, the All Star Weekend in the NBA, I feel like the skills competition is more of the attraction than the game itself. You got the Pro Bowl in the NFL. It's basically flag football. No one wants to play. You're not even having the best players in it because you do it the week before the Super Bowl. So Patrick Mahomes will never play in it because he's always playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Um, the MLB All Star Game, maybe the closest to the real game itself, but they're just playing for fun. And um, there for a while, I did not like that they played for home field advantage in the World Series. I didn't
Oh yeah.
like that. I don't like necessarily that every team gets a representative to the All Star game.
Yeah.
Seems
I'm
to
against that.
kind
I really
I
am.
I understand it that you want, that way everyone has someone to cheer for when they go, but it's like, yeah, but now you're just saying the All-Star is the whoever gets the most votes on the trashiest team. I don't know that that person's an All-Star. They're
Right.
taken away from, maybe someone that is a legit All-Star on another team, but because this team already has four guys that are going, well, no, we'll give it to someone else.
Yep.
So, and the NHL All-Star game, um, I'm not saying it was ever great. I'm also more interested. I like watching the skills competition a lot more than the All Star game itself
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
And
I
they've
love it.
tried. They've changed the format to the 3-on-3, the 3 games, different stuff. Playing for $1 million, which to a lot of these guys is nothing. They give their share away to the equipment managers and all that stuff. Yes, we had the great story with John Scott there a few years back and stuff. But All Star games, the game itself just never seems to. I don't know. It's not a fun thing.
Yeah,
It's not great TV. I know we went to an All-Star game one time,
yeah,
but what I liked about that more was the fan fest at the convention center where the Stanley Cup is there, the trophies are
yeah.
there. There's players that you can get autographs and walk around and see things and do. I like that aspect more than the game itself. So scrub the All-Star game.
Yes.
All-Star game is the scrub. I don't know how to mix in these things and to make it all work, but the stud is the Four Nations face-off tournament. I
Yeah,
don't know if they're going to keep doing it. What I fear is because Matty Kachuk got hurt, Charlie McAvoy got hurt, that maybe now some NHL teams are going to say, whoa, 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 I don't know if I want my guys going to this. Um, so I don't know if the NHL is going to continue to do this. And then, is it really fair to just have those four nations? How do you break it up? Do you have Russia in there? But then you got guys, Draisaitl. If you have a four nations tournament, Draisaitl, Mo Sider, you're
right.
not going to have a Germany team, and if you do, it's not going to be able to compete with Canada and U.S. And then it just turns into, more Olympic style. But I like the Four Nations format. I don't know how, what tweaks you could make, but I
Yeah,
like. Um, and I understand that some guys' contracts maybe have some bonus things in there if they're an all star and different things. And I do think we should celebrate some of those other players, but that to me it then is where we just make a bigger deal of that fan fest at the tournament or something. Even when we had the All Star game, and guys would Ovechkin, he would say, "You know what? I'm skipping the All Star game. I'm taking the rest." And then they say, "Oh, well, then you're suspended for another game. Great, you gave him more rest. Perfect." And you're penalizing him. So the reason was because fans want to see you. You got voted an all star. You skipped the game. Well, now we're going to suspend you a game. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense because you're suspending them, and now the fans that are going to that game don't get to see him, and that's the punishment for him not coming to another game that you wanted him to be there for.
right.
If they don't want to play in the game, make them say, "Fine, Ovi, that's fine, but you're going to sit at this desk for 2 hours, and you're going to sign everybody's thing that comes through this line. You're going to take a picture, and that's your
Yeah,
penalty. That's your fine or whatever it is." But make
right.
them do something. Fine. You don't want to play the game, but you're going to come to wherever the All Star game is, and you're going to be a part of the festivities in some form.
Yeah, I think so. That's
I don't know what all that looks like. I don't have all
yeah,
the answers for that, but I would love it if there was something more like that for the fans. This Four Nations face off, I think we saw that um, it reached more casual fans than an NHL All Star game would. It sparked more interest, created more buzz, and I think that's what the NHL needs to do. So, stud Four Nations tournament, scrub All Star game.
perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. Get the players. Stud. Four Nations. Scrub.
Yes,
All
yes,
star.
yes.
Perfect. I'm writing that down for a clip right there. That's the 48-minute clip. That's and your first one 45. I wrote them because that rant was perfect. Perfect.
Nice.
And I think they've hopefully embraced it. What I'm hoping, because they did announce that in 2028 they're going to do a World Cup of Hockey.
Yes.
So which teams I don't think has been talked about yet, how many teams, etc.
Yeah.
But I would love to see just getting rid of the All Star games. Then if
Yes.
you're going to do a
I would be fine with that.
26 Olympics, 28 World Cup, 30 Olympics, 32 World Cup, etc.
Yep.
Every 2 years, which is, by the way, what soccer does, drastically by far the most watched sport in the world.
Yeah.
They do the Olympics and the World Cup. And the World Cup is, of course, bigger than the Olympics because they have different rules. But
Yeah.
it's the same formula. The NHL rules at the World Cup of Hockey Four Nations type of tournament, that allows for the fighting. The that allows for whatever the NHL ice, the goalie's trapezoid. Then international, there's people who are hockey fans know this, but if you're just a casual fan or you just stumbled across our podcast and decided to stick around, NHL hockey has different rules and the ice is a different size. And it is basically the same sport, but it is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so it's fun and cool to see that. Plus, in the Four Nations, because of money and insurance and blah, 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 only NHL players are allowed to go. So we saw a team like Finland that I was big on. I was very bullish, saying they're underrated, they're going to do well. I thought they did do well. But I said the last podcast that the Miro Heiskanen being out might be too big of a hit for them. Saros also didn't play his best, right? And so I don't think it was really his fault, but it was like he had one bad game and then they play Lankinen the rest of the tournament. There's only 3 games, it's over. Well, when you're missing Heiskanen is probably pretty easily a top 10, probably a top 5 defenseman in the NHL. Then they're missing Hakanpää and another guy. So it's like Saros does get lit up a bit, and Lankinen plays fine, but he let in 4 goals in 10 minutes. It's like with those D there, maybe they'd be better. Well, there are teams that are not quite good enough to compete against US and Canada and Sweden and Russia. But Germany, if they could only take NHL players, they basically can't play.
Right.
In the Olympics, where they can take the top players from their country, now the best players by far are Leon Draisaitl and Mo Seider and a couple guys here and there, Stützle.
Yeah.
So they got a line 1 that's like, oh, okay, wow, they're pretty good. And then they got a few lines where they're not going to beat Russia or Canada, but they would destroy Italy, right? So it's like in the Olympics where you're saying, okay, maybe England and Italy and France aren't good enough to make the tournament. There's going to be teams like Slovenia, Slovakia, Chechnya, Latvia that are like, they're pretty dang good. Norway, Denmark, that just can't compete with the big boys. So it's so cool, and I think grows the game better. They always talk about grows the game. If you can do an NHL-sponsored tournament with NHL rules where you only have the top 6, let's say that it's Czech Republic and Russia next time are invited, and it's just the 6 teams. I would love, love, love for them to do a combined rest of the world.
Yeah.
I don't think they will because people are like, well, you're not really representing your country, but it's like, it'd be
and
so
I thought
cool,
about that too. But I just don't know that team of misfits
would want to. They might not want to play.
Where's their pride?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they wouldn't play their best and play for the pride, but I mean that's where some of that emotion was coming from with the Kachuk brothers. Was playing for their flag, for their country. And while it would be awesome if they put together a kind of rest of the world team, the NHL All-Star Game used to be that for a minute, right? It was North America, rest of the world.
Yeah, good call. Which was a cool way to do it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how to make that work or what they would do. But
I feel like they probably won it, but when you look at it, you go, maybe the Olympics already has the nations, even if they're smaller. If you qualify, you're in. So, France is actually surprisingly decent. So, maybe they have an upset and they beat Switzerland or they beat Norway and they sneak into the tournament. Well, they're probably going to get stomped, but it's kind of cool that they can go. If you do an NHL Four Nations type of a tournament, there's no chance. There's no chance they can go. I think there's only 2 players from France that are even in the league. So they literally can't put 20 people together.
Yeah.
Okay, well, most of the countries can't put 20 people together. Certainly not that can compete.
Right.
So if in that tournament you tried to do a rest of the world because it's the NHL representation, you might be able to get away with it more. Where you could still get a little pride because someone like Kopitar is allowed to go. Someone like Draisaitl you got to figure out how to get Draisaitl to the tournament. And so okay, now you got Leon Draisaitl right over here, Edmonton Oilers patch, right over here, Germany patch. And it's the rest of the world. And so same thing. Seider's got the Red Wings and the Germany, and etc. And then you can get Zuccarello. I think that Šilos, Arthur Šilos, Silvos, is the Latvian goalie. That's kind of how he got famous,
Oh,
right?
okay.
He had all those saves. They went to the finals or
Yeah.
whatever, and then he came out of nowhere playing for the Canucks, right? So they have talent across the league that would make for a really cool team where in the Olympics, they're not interested. They want to play for their nation. They want to wear their flag. They want to speak their language. That is all obvious that you want national pride. But when you say, hey, look, we can only invite people that are in this league, it creates kind of a loophole where they're like, well, there's some guys that we really wish could be at this tournament. And
Yeah.
to your point, can you round it out to 8? Can you say Czech Republic's good enough and do
Right.
Czech and Russia and then do rest of the world and then do the scrubs? I don't think they do it because the Team North America everyone loved, but that was different. They did you have to be under 25 years old. That's not what I want. I want Evan Bouchard at the tournament going, I can't believe you left me on the couch.
Yeah.
And then someone got hurt and you went and got Drew Doughty, who's 55 years old. Evan Bouchard, then people got hurt and whatever. They probably did call Bouchard, but he said, screw you, I'm on vacation. When Theodore and Morrissey got hurt and they had to get that kid, that Harley kid. You don't think they should have had Bouchard running the power play with Connor McDavid? I don't know. I mean, Kel McCarta obviously runs it the number one, but it's like there was some talent. Tage Thompson is not a tough guy, but Jack Hughes is 5'8" and looked all of it. A few of those games, he was getting thrown around like a little boy.
Yeah,
And
he
Tage
didn't do much.
Thompson ain't getting thrown around by anybody.
Yeah.
He might not win a fight, but he's whatever, 6'6", 230. It's like Eichel. He's just, I'm not like a fighter, but you ain't pushing me around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, anyways, I meant to actually do that. I would love to go through the NHL, say where you're from, and write down a 20-man roster. I think it's good enough to compete. It's definitely as good as Finland. That's what I'm going to say. Maybe that's not true. But I'm going to say off the top, just thinking of Stützle, Mosider, Draisaitl, and Kopitar, just off the top of my head, Zuccarello, Shelos. It's like this team is good enough.
They could put together a team that would be,
interesting, at least interesting. So I hope that they do something like that too. And it's all, I think it should be similar to the Olympics. They shouldn't play it in Chicago. They should play it in Stockholm or something like that. And in the middle of the season, it's hard. Maybe they won't do that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's because they got to have NHL ice and NHL refs. So, maybe not. But it'd be awesome. And you just say there's no All-Star game next year. So you get a break. You get a vacation and then you get high intensity play. And with the money and the GMs and people getting injured, it might not stick around. Money talks. But for the fans who, by the way, are the money, they might say, we don't want Matthew Tkachuk hurt, of course. So we don't want that. But then when they get the revenue sharing of the millions of dollars they make on the sales, they might say, we got to risk it. Yeah. We got to just cross our fingers. Because as terrible as it is, Charlie McAvoy's weird injury, right? He gets hurt, it's no big deal. Then he gets an infection, and it's like really serious. Okay, so it's like, I hope everything's okay. I hope he can play. I hope that it's not like sepsis or something, you know what I mean? Like, I hope for real that this guy is okay. But I can't help it. First thing I think is worst thing for Team USA. Because McAvoy didn't really have a very good season this year, but holy crap, did he play good Saturday night against Canada.
Yeah.
Second thing I thought was, man, that's good for the Red Wings. Sorry, but you're in a playoff race, and right now the Red Wings are in and Boston's out, and they lost their best defenseman.
Yeah.
And Larkin just went and basically played playoff games for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, now you got Raymond and Larkin on that bump. You got Seider well rested, and you got your competition, their best defenseman's hurt.
Yeah.
So, I get that maybe it won't happen, but I love your take. I'm doubling down on it. And I don't know Bettman's phone number, but let's get this going.
Nice. I like it. Oh, all
right. Is it time for history?
It's time for history.
I'm right here. I'm going to hit mute. I'll just tell it because I've said this before. I got to blow my nose, and I don't want it on the podcast of like an elephant blast.
All right.
So I'm right here. I can hear you. Hit me with
Okay. All right. So I figured since we did a little Four Nations, we've been hashing that out the first hour here. We'd kind of continue with our international hockey talk. I know that this wasn't the Olympics, and that's coming up, but the Four Nations was so great seeing teams, guys play for their country
Mhm.
that it just kind of sparked this thing in me. Plus, so we're recording on the 22nd or the 23rd, right?
Yeah, because yesterday was 22nd, my wife's birthday.
Yes, yesterday was the 22nd. Happy birthday, Leah. Um, which also yesterday was the 45th anniversary of Miracle on Ice.
Ooh,
Yes.
nice tie-in.
So, I figure we are right in the thick of that international hockey anniversary Miracle on Ice. So, we're gonna dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so I think we all have a pretty good, just maybe surface history of Miracle on Ice. Even people that aren't hockey fans know about it, right? It
Mhm.
was considered one of the greatest sports moments in the 20th century. Um, it was bigger than, of course, the Disney movie, helped promote the popularity and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Or
Bigger than a
rebirth
hockey
and
game. It was nation versus nation, all that stuff.
what a good movie.
Political stuff like we just had with the Four Nations, U.S.,
Yeah.
Canada.
You,
So
yeah, talk about the politics then. Are you kidding me?
yeah, so Miracle on Ice. Uh, USA beat the Soviets 4-3 on February 22nd, 1980, in Lake Placid, New York. All right, so we're going to dive into this a little bit of history here. The Soviets had previously won five of the six gold medals before that Olympics. Just a dominant team. There's documentaries all about it. Love watching those. Red Army, all those things. I think we watched one of those together, just about how just I mean they're in the army and regimented they are,
Yeah.
and just that's their lifestyle. That's what they are soldiers in the Red Army playing hockey. That is
Yeah.
what they do. This is
But
our war. We are fighting on ice.
dominate. What's the line in
Just
the movie? Is my goal is to beat them at their own game. Beat the best
yeah,
team in the world. Gold
yeah,
medalist, 64, 72, 76. Pretty
yeah.
lofty goal, Herb.
Just yeah. So Soviets had won five of the previous six times. The U.S. They were the youngest team in the tournament, and that was the youngest U.S. national team in history. The
Wow.
average age on that team was 21.
Dang.
Uh, College kids, no NHL players. Um, these kids, some of them went back to college after that Olympics. Like they didn't just go, play hockey then after that or
Red
anything.
Wings, take notes. Play the
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. And I was looking at the roster today. All of those all the players were from either Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, or Wisconsin.
Wow.
So
Wisconsin is from Wisconsin.
yeah. Um, so they went into that tournament, youngest team ever for the U.S. against just this powerhouse, David versus Goliath, right? So they both the Soviets and the U.S. were undefeated in group play. Now I didn't realize this, but the U.S. Had actually played and kind of upset some other teams in group play that year. They
Yeah. Yeah.
tied against Sweden. And they beat Czechoslovakia 7-3, which was an upset. The Czechoslovakia was like the number two team
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time or something.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the U.S. and those just get overlooked because of what happened later, right? I
Right.
mean, so both undefeated in group play, and they get to man, and I don't know. I'll get to yeah. Sorry, I got a bunch of notes on this, but
I
I'm not
love it.
sure. It's
I
kind
love
of
it.
organized. um,
I like the chaos. Let it run.
yeah. All right. So let's get to that game. It's the first game in the medal round against the Soviets. So it was a little bit of a different format at the time.
Yeah.
So they're playing the Soviets, and after the first period, it's tied 2-2, and the goalie, regarded as the best in the world at the time, they pulled him after the first. Tretiak,
Trench, yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Uh,
In my
so
top five all time.
he gets pulled after the first period. He let in 2 goals. It's 3-2 Soviets after 2 periods. The U.S. had to score 2 goals in the third period to win.
Hmm.
So comeback victory.
Yeah.
Mike Eruzione scores the game-winning goal with 10 minutes left in the third, the longest 10 minutes
Oh,
of their lives.
for
Then
sure.
after they score, and even after they win that, this is the thing, and I didn't know this until later. I mean, I've known it for a while now, but that was not the gold medal game. Two
Right.
days later, they had to play and beat Finland to win the gold medal.
Yeah.
They beat Finland 4-2 to win gold. They had to come back in that game. It was named Miracle on Ice. Sports Illustrated called it the top sports moment of the 20th century. We all know the famous Al Michaels call, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. Ken Dryden also calling the
Yeah,
game
the
with them.
color commentator, right? Or whatever they're called.
Yes. Yes. um, we know from the movie Miracle that was that about that selection process. Um, and specifically, I'm talking about the 300 question psychological test Herb
Oh,
Brooks gave all the players. He wanted insight into how they were going to handle adversity. If you said, "I don't want to take that test," you automatically failed. You're out. He's not looking for the best players, he's looking for the right players.
right ones. Yep.
He had to select 20. I mean, think about that. You're selecting 20 kids
Yes.
from everybody that's there to try out. Um,
And we talk about if you're cut from the Four Nations, you got a little chip on your shoulder. They
yeah.
talk about it in the movie. He's the last guy sent home in 1960.
Yes.
I don't know if that was in your notes later. Sorry, didn't mean to step on you.
I remembered
You
that.
knew
I
it,
don't know
but
that I got it in my notes, but yes, he was
and you
cut
got
from the
this
team.
thing. He's probably not staying up at night for 20 years,
Yeah.
but when he gets selected as the coach in the past,
Yes.
it's like a man obsessed.
Yeah.
What's this psychological test? And if you don't want to take it, you're off my team. I'm not looking for the best. I'm looking for the right.
Yeah.
Like psychotic. Like
And
even the gold medal is probably not his number one. It's
yeah.
beating the Soviets is my number one goal.
Yeah. And I think after he got cut, and because the U.S., I believe, won gold that year, right? In 1960 when he was off the
Yes, they
team.
did, which was another kind of crazy upset. But
And
I don't know.
his dad said to him after U.S. won gold in 1960, "Looks like the coach cut the right player," or something to that effect. I remember that being in a documentary.
That
So
is,
how much more does that have to sting? Using that for motivation. So
jeez, Louise.
Herb Brooks is already just on a rampage. He wants to win. Looking for the right players, not the best players. He had coached a lot of these. He was the coach at Minnesota, I believe.
Yes,
So
they
I
won a
think there
lot.
were 8 or 9 players, that won some national championships. There were eight
Yeah.
or nine players that had played or were playing for Herb Brooks in college.
Hmm.
Um, so he just has this crazy selection process. Uh, 300 questions, psychological test. You don't want to take it. You failed. You're done. He starts getting his team out. They were playing exhibition games like the year before the Olympics. Especially the summer before the Winter Olympics. So I mean, you're talking 6, 7, 8 months ahead of time. You're getting together, practicing, getting these exhibition games in. It was September 13th, 1979, that the U.S. team tied Norway 3-3. This
Hmm.
is the famous game where Brooks was unhappy with the effort that the team skated with in that 3-3 tie. After the game, goes out there, they're just skating suicides, Herbies.
Yeah.
Again, again, blowing the whistle, again. Famous scene in the movie, just crazy. I don't know how true the movie scene is to what happened in real life. All the stuff, but I
I
mean,
have heard that it's accurate. I don't know about the dramatization of the I'm Mike Ramuzioni. I play for
I
USA,
play for yeah,
but
yeah,
the bag skating you after a tie totally
yes.
happened.
Janitors turn the lights off. They're still running, still skating in the dark, and that was part of his plan and technique and tactic was to give these guys right because some of these guys are playing college in University of Minnesota. Some are playing at Boston U, and so you have these rivalries because these teams were playing each other in college hockey, and
Yep.
so he needed to give them a common enemy,
Yeah.
something to unite them. So he was fine with that being him. All right, these guys can get pissed off at me, but at least they will be able to
Yeah.
bond over that. So he just bag skates him for an hour after that game. The next day, they play Norway again. They won 9-0.
Wow, I didn't know that part. See
Yeah.
that's a detail cut from the movies,
Yep.
so it worked,
Uh,
right?
so So then we get to the Olympics. I hope I'm not jumping around too much here. So, but I had to touch on that game because that's the famous
Well, it's a
story
turning
of
point, right? It's
Herbie's and
obviously
skating them.
dramatized
Yes.
in the film, but to
Yeah.
tie a team 3-3, then get skated until you're puking your brains out, to then
And
win
then,
90-0 the next day
yeah,
when
crazy.
you're way, way, way more tired is like obviously it worked.
Yeah.
That galvanized the team, obviously.
Yeah. So that gave them a spark. In the Olympics for this game, the Miracle on Ice game, there were 8,500 people in attendance. That's it.
Right. Yeah. So
Not much.
half a stadium or less nowadays. Yeah.
Right. Prior to the game, ABC Network requested that it be moved from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Because they wanted to broadcast it in prime time.
Okay.
The request was denied because the Soviets complained that it would cause the game to air at 4 a.m. instead of 1 a.m. Moscow time. Now,
Okay.
I feel like maybe, I mean, would you rather stay up and start the game at 1 or would you rather get up at 4 and watch the game? I don't know. But
I don't know. Well, everyone's on the same schedule in those days in the union.
yeah.
So maybe they were.
So they denied the time. So actually, and I didn't realize this, I guess, but the game was taped then, and what was played on primetime was a tape delayed.
Oh, okay.
They didn't air it live. So it was tape delayed and shown in prime time. And before the game aired, didn't write down who it was, but it was openly stated that the game had already occurred and they promised not to spoil the results. So they were fitting this in between different other Olympics, sports and the
Oh,
skiing
right.
and
There's
all the stuff.
different
So
skiing and
everything
things.
else, ABC wanted this game to air at 8 o'clock prime time live. It didn't. They played it at 5, but they're playing other things at 5. And then when it gets to be prime time, they're just showing the tape delay. The game had already happened. Now
Wow.
they're just showing it. So that's pre-internet, pre all the things that they could keep it a secret as to what
Right.
happened.
If they've got the exclusive rights to view it on TV, the only spoiling that can happen is somebody who watched the game live and could call you to tell you about it
Right.
from a payphone or from their house. You
Yeah,
might reach a couple thousand people, but like you said, only 8,500 people witnessed it live.
exactly.
How
Which
smart is
is
ABC,
crazy.
by the way, to say even if you won't do it at prime time, we're going to record this and do it at prime time.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm sure you have in your notes, and if you've seen the movie, you know USA just got the doors beaten off of them by the Soviet Union like a month before the games.
Yeah.
So for ABC to want to do it with that much drama, there is a chance that then on prime time during the Cold War, they post an already finished game of the Soviets annihilating America.
Yeah.
So good on ABC for being like, trust me, this is gonna be something.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. I've never had heard that. That's crazy.
It's crazy, right? I don't think I knew that before.
There's a
So
lot
like
of free internet shenanigans. You learn stuff like
yeah, yeah.
that's like they did what?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, Mike Eruzione scores the game-winning goal. 10 minutes left in the third period. It's getting later in the game, and I think it was after. Okay, so I'll back up. In the first period, we score with like 1 second left, right, to tie it at 2-2. Kind of takes the wind out of their sails going into the second period. That's why Tretiak gets pulled. They're their coach is pissed off. They should be stomping us, right?
Quick note on that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I
No,
just
you're good.
heard an interview recently from somebody. Can't remember who it was, but he played on Team Canada in the 1980 games.
Mm,
Canada lost to the Soviet Union, but they were winning. Canada was up, and Soviet Union came from behind and won. They
okay.
pulled Tretiak, and they put in the backup Michigan, and the Soviet Union came back and won.
Okay.
Next
So
game, they're playing Team USA, and in the movie, it's kind of dramatic, but they're tied, but he let in the goal with 1 second left.
yeah,
And the coach thought it already worked against Canada. I'm going to pull
do
Tretiak.
it again.
And I
Yeah.
have heard an interview with Tretiak, or I read it, where he said something. He's got 4 gold medals, or maybe 5. I think he's got 4, and he said I would have 5 if coach would have left me in against USA.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
when you're that goalie, you kind of think we just saw Bennington, not to go off topic, but
Yeah,
who at first I looked like a genius. I said you got to ride him because he's insane and he might get hot, he might
yeah,
not, and of course he did. Jerk ruined the USA's
right.
win,
Yeah,
but same thing. It's like a goal like Tretiak. Hey, you let in the goal with 1 second left. Get out of my net.
right.
If you say you're still our guy, you're still the best goalie in the world. Well, I don't know if USA can pull up
Ugh.
2 goals in the third period.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what they did. 2 goals in the third period. Halfway through the third is when they broke the tie. Now they're up 4-3. Uh, and
Two
it's
goals in
it's
10 minutes.
it's getting late. They
You
got
think
to
about it, they scored
protect
two
this
goals in
lead
10
for
minutes.
10 minutes. They got to
10
protect this
minutes.
lead for 10 minutes. Uh, the Soviets never pulled their goalie. Some of the players thought they were fully expecting that the Soviets would pull their goalie towards the end of the
Yeah.
period. Um, and someone later stated that they didn't pull him because they never did a 6-on-5, never in practice. Why
Right.
would you? You're so dominant. You're always going to win. You're winning all these
They've
games.
probably never been down by 1.
You've never been in that situation before. So you don't, you just,
That's
uh, yeah. So they didn't pull their goalie. Everybody's on edge. Al Michaels alongside Ken Dryden. Here's his quote towards the end. 11 seconds. You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Silk. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. Oh, what a iconic call that has gone down in history. This is the greatest upset in sports history.
do you believe in miracles?
I mean, you can hear it now.
You can
Just crazy,
oh,
right? I mean, that has to be,
got to be one of the best sports things that ever happened.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a note on his call, by the way. They had him in the recording studio or whatever it's called for the movie. Because
mm,
the recording is kind of granular and older,
yeah,
they have a script. In
okay.
the movie, when they talk and when Ken Dryden talks, they redid it. They had
Oh, okay.
not the actors. They had the commentary come in and film it for
Just
Disney.
redo, yeah.
Apparently, they did a bunch of takes. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. Couldn't do it. They said it didn't sound right. It didn't sound authentic. They couldn't. So in the film, if you go watch the Disney movie,
It's
it
the real
cuts
thing.
and it's the real thing, and you can
Yeah,
hear if you're ready for it.
kind of a
It's a
little,
little bit scratchy, and it's
yeah.
just kind of older recording. It's
I
the
love that.
real call because
Love that.
the
You
same
can't recreate that
man
emotion.
can't
You can't
recreate emotion.
recreate it.
You can't
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
How cool!
So in 1980, like I said, the medal round was a little different. It was round robin. It wasn't single elimination.
Yeah,
So after this game,
yeah, because the Soviets won silver, didn't they?
yes, after this game, it was mathematically possible for the USA to finish anywhere from first to fourth.
Wow.
after beating the Soviets.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So they still had to take on Finland 2 days later. They were down 2-1 to them after the second period. And during that intermission, Herb Brooks told his players, so we're down 2-1 going into the third gold medal game. Herb Brooks, if you lose this game, you'll take it to your blank graves. Walked towards the locker room door, paused, looked over his shoulder, and said again, "Your blanking graves." U.S. comes back to win 4-2. And that's so true. That win means nothing against the
Yep.
Soviets if the U.S. finishes fourth. If we lose that game and we finish fourth, Soviets win silver or whatever, who cares?
Yep.
Okay, so what? You beat them. It's like our U.S. team just beating Canada in the round robin of Four Nations.
Yep.
Good win, great story, but you got nothing to
You
show
lost
for
the
it.
one that mattered. They
Nothing
don't
to
give
show
a
for it.
second place ribbon in the
Yeah,
NHL.
yeah. So, so they had to go out there, beat Finland, which they did. They still did the podiums at the time, so it was really just the captains were standing on the podiums while your national anthem played. I think they played the anthem, and then Mike Eruzione had the whole team come up on the podium, like in the movie. Now they don't do that; they just have the teams line up like on the blue lines, and they're playing their anthems
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff. There's
yeah,
no podium
yeah.
anymore, but just had to be such an incredible. And I mean, think about that: you're riding this high. You just beat the best team in the world, and then to come back and 2 days later have to play another game where I'm sure you're emotionally drained and just spent from the game before, 2 days before, and you're down, you're losing against that team,
You got to just be riding high the whole time.
and to come back and win, is just had to be a phenomenal feeling. Herb Brooks, just a masterpiece of just knowing what to say, when to say it, how far to push the line, where guys needed to be pushed, how far they could be pushed, all that stuff goes. And it started in 79, 6, 8 months earlier with that skate after the Norway game. Hey, you guys need to, I need more effort out of you. I need
Yeah.
more cohesiveness. I need more of a team out here. And so just knew all the right buttons to push, knew what to say, when to say it, how to get the best out of all these players. There was one guy that was a teenager on the team, 19.
That's crazy.
Michael Ruzioni was the oldest player on the team at the time and was 25. So, I mean, you're talking
That's crazy.
just youngsters, guys that are 20,
The
21 years old that are out here
oldest
playing
guys
for their
sometimes.
country. These guys don't. How is the Cold War affecting them? You know what I mean? I was thinking about that. Like you're 20 years old. Yeah, you're playing for pride for your country, but this is why it's such a great story is that it was more than just a hockey game. It was nations and the Cold War's going on. But when you're 20, how much has that really affected you at that point in time?
Right.
If you're 40, okay, well now you're
All
talking,
you're
hey, it
looking
is affected me. I've been around long enough to
It's
see
a lot of
what's
your life. That you
going
talk
on.
about the
Yeah.
gas rations they show in the movie. That
Yeah.
you would have been old enough to be in the '60s where it was like the stuff really
Yeah.
almost hit the fan for real. And then
Yeah.
yeah, okay, you're 19, 20. You play at the University of Minnesota, and the whole world's going. You have to beat the Soviets because it's the Cold War, and you're kind of like, I'm just playing hockey. What are you talking about?
Yeah. You're
Like,
not grasping the
you're
full
not
weight
getting
of
all
the
that.
moment.
They showed in the film at the start of the game I think was real, where they had a big sign that said puck with a P, a hockey puck,
Mm.
get the puck out of
Yeah.
Afghanistan. Because in the 80s, the Soviets were in
Yeah.
Afghanistan. And
Oh
so it
yeah.
was like there's all these political things going on that 19 or 20-year-old, and you might be a little bit aware of
Not
it
paying
because you're,
attention to the politics
you're
stuff. Yeah,
a
they're
young
not.
man that could get drafted or whatever. But,
Yeah.
it's like that's not what you're thinking about. You're just thinking about hockey,
Yeah.
and it's like the weight of the world suddenly drops on your shoulders where the outside noise is making it about this, right? It's
Yeah.
like
And you
crazy.
got to think Herb Brooks has a better what is it, finger on the pulse of what's
Yeah,
going on politically and all that stuff.
right. Because
He
he's
he's
40 or whatever at the time, probably.
Yeah, he's got the, memories of 1960. He's watched these Soviets win all these other gold medals.
Yeah.
You
Not
know,
to mention that it's they as a nation or whatever, right? The Soviet Union also dominate the Summer Olympics.
yeah,
USA is usually the track and field monsters, and of course, USA and China are kind of the big boys nowadays. But like
yeah,
those Soviet Unions, they won all the gymnastic stuffs. Then they go to the winter and they win all the hockey. And the team now you're trying to beat is probably the best team of all time. I'm sure the Canada Cup '70s guys would beg to differ,
yeah,
but it's like this is a team way better than your
yeah,
team in every
for
single
sure.
aspect of the game, and you pull off the miracle upset. It's insane.
Yeah. So, of the 20 players that were on the team, 13 went on to play in the NHL. I'm going to dive into a little bit of these guys here.
Okay, okay,
Probably one of the ones that had a more storied or decorated NHL career
Johnson.
is
I'm gonna guess Johnson.
well, he did. We'll get to him, but
Okay, okay, I'll leave it.
Neil Broten,
Yep.
Broten, and I
I think
hope
he's
I'm
got a
saying
kid
that
with him.
right because I do believe there's someone. I don't know if it's his son, nephew, something. Maybe just got drafted.
Okay,
He played 17 years in the NHL.
that's a pretty long career.
He was a two-time All-Star. He won the Stanley Cup with the Devils in '95.
Okay.
He was the first American player to score 100 points in a season.
Oh,
First player to win a championship in college, professional, and the Olympics. So he won. Dang it, I didn't write down where he
so
went to school.
national title.
But he won a national championship in college, Olympic
Probably,
gold.
probably Minnesota because they talk about it in the movie how the
Yeah,
Boston, Minnesota played. Anyways,
and Stanley Cup.
okay, and he was the first person to ever do that.
Yes, to win a championship in college, pro hockey, and an Olympic gold.
Okay, that's cool.
Ken Morrow, first player to win Olympic gold and Stanley Cup in the same year. He
What?
um, went and played for the Islanders. And
Okay, okay.
so what
Not bad.
happens is some of these guys were already drafted and then chose
Yeah,
to go back to college, or they got drafted but then they were going to play in the Olympics and then they
yeah.
could play for their
Joey Mullen. They talk about in the
team
movie.
that yeah.
Goes to play for
So
the Rangers.
yeah, so Ken Morrow did that. He was drafted but then played in the Olympics, and then after that went to the Islanders and played, and then they won the Stanley Cup in 1980. So in whatever, 4 or 5 months, he won Olympic gold and a Stanley Cup.
That's awesome, huh?
Yeah.
Like talk about retiring on the top. You're
I mean,
23 years
just,
old. I'm out of here.
yeah. And now since then, a lot of other players have done that because now professional athletes, especially 2002, that was a big Olympic thing where, and even we talk about Sidney Crosby, he won a Stanley Cup in '09, and then the 2010 Olympics won gold medal,
Yeah,
so other players have done that, but this Ken Morrow did that at a time when professional athletes weren't playing in the Olympics, so it was a
right,
lot more rare.
right,
Um,
right.
Mike Ramsey played 18 years, 14 seasons with the Sabres. He was a five-time All-Star. He
Wow.
played against the Devils in 1995 with the Red Wings.
Oh,
So he lost in the Cup Finals that year. Um, and in the year 2000, he became assistant coach for the Minnesota Wild. Dave Christian spent 14 years in the NHL with the Jets and the Capitals. He played in the Stanley Cup Finals in 1990 and was an All-Star in 1991. So there were a lot of guys that had decent
yeah.
NHL careers. Um, Bob Suter, he
Hmm.
was drafted by the Kings. He never signed with them, and he didn't end up playing in the NHL. But we all know his son, Ryan Suter.
Yep.
Um, and Bob was the first one from this team to pass away and he died of a heart attack back in 2014,
Oh wow.
um, which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy that it's been that long. But
Yeah.
he actually died at an ice rink, and within a year, they renamed that rink in honor of him.
Wow.
So, Mark Johnson played 11 seasons for, played 11 seasons in the NHL, several different teams. He
Mhm.
was an All Star in 1984, and in 2002, he became the coach of the University of Wisconsin Madison women's team,
Oh,
and he won a national championship in 2006, 2007, 2009, 2011, 2019, 2021, 2023.
whoa.
So just rattled off what, 7-time women's national
Out
championship?
of 15.
Yeah. Also head coach of the women's Olympic team that won silver in 2010
Uh-huh.
for US.
And that was a double whammy, right? Wasn't that USA Canada for both men and women? And Canada
Yep.
won both. Oh, heartbreaker.
Yep. Yep. Jack O'Callahan. He played 390 games for the Blackhawks and the Devils.
Okay.
Mark Pavelich, 355 games between the Rangers, North Stars, and Sharks. He passed away in 2021.
Hmm.
Dave Silk, 249 games between Boston, Winnipeg, Detroit, and the Rangers. Jim Craig, goalie, 30 games in the NHL. Atlanta Flames, Bruins, North Stars.
30 more than
Mike,
me.
yeah, yeah. Mike Eruzione never played any high level ice hockey after the Olympics. He wasn't drafted, but he said he felt like he accomplished all his hockey goals with the gold medal. I mean,
That's awesome. That's
why
awesome.
not? Why
And
not,
I
dude?
feel like he's also like became a public speaker maybe because of all this. I
Yeah,
don't know if
I'm
that's
sure
true, but
he's,
I heard he's good at it.
yeah. And especially after, I mean, I feel like this team, and because this movie came out around 2002, so the Olympics miracle, it's getting a boost, right? It's being thrust back into the public eye. A whole new generation of
Yeah.
people are hearing about it, watching the Disney movie, and so it kind of got brought back to the forefront, popular again. People were looking at this team again.
And in
For
2002,
the
the Olympics were in
Olympics.
Salt
The
Lake,
Olympics, yes,
so
yeah.
it was
So
like
everything's
USA
just kind
was
of hitting again.
yeah. This and they almost won that game. I don't know if it went into overtime, but I remember because the Red Wings were so stacked. You had Brett Hall on Team USA, and you had
And
Eiserman
Chris
on,
Chelios,
and
famous
that famous
picture.
picture, right, with the
Yes,
yeah.
Eiserman, Shanahan, Hall, and Chelios.
And they're
Yeah,
like, yeah, we're on the same line. Oh, by the
yeah,
way, so is probably bronze medal or whatever Nick Lindstrom on Sweden.
yeah, yeah. And Wings won the cup that year. So you had
Yeah,
Eiserman, Shanahan win gold and a Stanley Cup. Hall, Chelios win
all in the
silver and a
same
Stanley Cup. Just
wow,
loaded.
loaded. Yeah,
Um,
but the
well,
popularity, the movie comes out, the Olympics are
yes.
in the United States.
Herb Brooks. Herb Brooks was the coach of that 2002 Olympic team
I did not
of
know
the
that
USA.
or forgot it,
Yes.
and I watched
Yes.
that live. My dad was there. I don't think he was at the game, but he was in Salt Lake.
Mhm. Yeah. So
So,
just a lot of stuff just kind of coming back to the forefront, coming back to the top. You got the movie, the Olympics in the U.S. again. Herb Brooks is back in the Olympics. U.S. is good. We're
yeah,
good.
really good then. Yeah,
Um, so just all of that coming back. Some more players here. Mark Wells uh, never played in the NHL, but he played some minor league hockey. He had a spinal disease and he passed away just last year in May of 2024. Steve Januzak, he
yeah.
was the MVP of the championship University of Minnesota. They won the national championship in 1979. He's the goalie. He's the MVP for the team.
Oh yes, yes.
Backup to Jim
Back,
Craig.
and, yeah, Jim Craig's his team goalie, best goalie in the country, wins in the national championship, and he has him on the bench backup, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Januszak, right?
Again,
Yeah,
not the best players, the right players.
right. And that was kind of like this Bennington thing, the Four Nations. He knew
Yes.
that Jim Craig wasn't the best. Look at his NHL record. He
Yep.
wasn't the best goalie, but he could be. He had seen a
Yeah.
flash in the pan where he said, if you can get that guy in net, he's the best in the world.
Somewhere in those 300 psychological questions,
There's some,
Herb Brooks knew what he was doing.
because I don't know if it's true in the movie, but doesn't Jim Craig throw the test away? And he says, I want to know why you wouldn't take this. And he said, I just don't see what it has to do with stopping a puck. And he says, see you in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was this
There.
idea that it wasn't a bad attitude. It was just like, I'm here to stop the puck. That's it. And it was
Yeah.
almost that razor edge, that Bennington, like, do I look like I'm nervous? It was like,
Yeah.
if you can just get it, the John Sebastian Jaguar against the Red Wings in 2001, right? It's
Oh, for sure.
2000.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can just get that, the Olympics are kind of short, right? If Jim
Yeah.
Craig can show up for 6 games, we can win. I just got to make
Yeah.
sure it happens in those 6 games.
Right. So Craig Patrick, he was
Yep.
an assistant coach to Herb Brooks. He went on and managed and coached the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was the general manager for Pittsburgh when they won their back-to-back cups in the early 90s.
Yes, yes. I might have
He
known that
was
one. Yeah.
he was also the general manager for the 2002 silver medal US team.
Wow.
And he was elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2002.
Mm.
So a lot of stuff going for him.
Yeah.
Herb Brooks coached in the NHL after the Olympics. Yeah, mixed results. Not great, not awful. He won silver. Again, he coached the U.S. national team in 2002 that got silver. They beat Russia 3-2 in the semifinal match, 22 years to the day in that Olympics.
That's crazy.
Um, so, yeah, beat the Soviets, then beat Russia.
Wow.
He tragically died in a car crash
Mm.
in August 2003. So
Mm.
shortly at a year and some change after the Olympics. Um, I don't think. Okay, so the movie then came out either in 2003
Oh,
or
yeah, because the
2004
credits say
because
that.
they said that he never got to see it, but he lived it.
Yes. Yeah. Good one.
So, so the Olympics are kind of building up to this movie. Just in those couple years, you got all that stuff kind of happening. So, yeah, my mistake. I think
Yeah.
maybe I was implying that the movie was coming out the same time, but it was the Olympics, and then that movie
Yeah.
came out afterwards.
And
And I don't know how
96
long.
was the World Cup of hockey. That's what they kept talking about with the Kachuk brothers. So they had,
Yeah,
but there was just like kind of a 5 year growth into the 2002 Olympics and the movie, and it was like a resurgence in hockey in the United States.
yeah. So,
Which is where the kids playing in this Four Nations, that's probably when they were born. 2002,
right. Yeah,
like that. That's like, okay, now
for
their
sure.
parents are these guys that played in the 96, the '02, the movie's coming out, and they're
Yeah,
saying like that's more their grandparents almost, because if you're playing in the '80s games, you're born in the '60s,
right.
right? So like
Yeah,
crazy.
yep. So he was only 66 at the time. So I mean, pretty sad.
Pretty young. I
The
mean, that's sad. Yeah.
Yeah, the Olympic Center Ice Arena in Lake Placid then was renamed in his honor, and then he was I can never say this word post hum
Yeah.
must say that for me.
Piston. Now I can't
Post
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, he was enshrined in the Hockey Hall of Fame after he had passed.
After he had passed away,
Yes,
posthumously. Dang it.
yes.
Yes.
And the whole team, the whole 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team was enshrined in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame as a team in 2003.
Okay.
Now, several of those players are also in there by themselves
Yeah.
as players, but that team was enshrined in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame in 2003. Couple other things. The guy that took the famous picture. I think maybe even you or Miles has the picture that's signed by all those players.
Oh, yeah.
That picture, so it's that frame, that shot. That photographer just passed away last month, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy. I didn't know.
and also, back in October, a bill got introduced, and now it has since been reintroduced, according to the AP, to award the Congressional Gold Medal, America's highest civilian honor, to the guys on the Miracle on Ice team.
Wow.
So it's been reintroduced to the House of Representatives after it was initially proposed toward the end of the previous legislative session, which was in the fall.
Mhm.
Peter Stauber, uh, is the driving force behind it. I believe he's a representative from Minnesota.
Mhm.
He wants to commission 3 gold medals to be displayed at the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame in Minnesota. The other one to be at the Olympic Center in Lake Placid, where the arena where the game took place. And then the third one to be at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum in Colorado.
Okay, cool.
17 of the 20 players are still alive.
Yeah.
They're all in their 60s, though, so he says he's kind of trying to push this with a sense of urgency. Like, we need to get this done so that these guys have time to enjoy it.
Yeah, right, true. You don't want to wait and then say, like, oh, okay, you're 88 years old and there's only 10 people left or 15 people left, and here
Yeah,
you go. Now,
yeah,
even if you live to be 100, what, you get 10 years with this? Like,
right.
it's
Um,
it's
I
kind of
also
like we
forgot.
talked about Willie O'Ree a little bit. Is just the not
Oh,
that they're
right.
comparable, but it's like don't wait 60 years to give somebody their due. You know,
Correct.
and we're
Yeah.
already at 40,
45.
45, right? So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
most of
that's
these
a good
guys are mid
idea, though.
60s.
Yeah, especially like let's put it in the hockey or the U.S.
U.S.
You
Hockey
know,
Hall of Fame, dude. Yeah.
like
Come on.
how is it not?
It
Oh,
was such a, and a lot of that has to do, with the whole political climate at the time. This was big. This was bigger than a hockey game, and maybe it wasn't to these players, but to the country at that time, that they could cling to
yeah,
this,
yeah,
and that this was a boost for them during the Cold War. I mean, it had such an effect on a lot of
yeah.
people that um, I
And
think they
you
deserve
know,
it.
we boycotted the games in Moscow, the summer games, and because when my parents went to Iowa State, and
Mm,
my mom dated a gymnast for a while, and he was like, I think the favorite to win the all around gold medal
okay. Wow.
in the Moscow games, and then he never went, and I don't think he
Yeah.
ever went to the Olympics ever, not the
Mm,
'84 games. And so, like
yeah.
you're saying, it's bigger than just hockey because no matter what sport you watch, the U.S. didn't go to Moscow
Yeah.
for the games. So it was like and I know there's a big basketball upset the other direction, right? The Soviets
Right.
beat the US. But it's like this moment was bigger than sports and it should be remembered that way. And I think it is
Yes.
remembered that way. So why
For
isn't it
sure.
more official? You know,
Yeah.
it's a good
Yeah.
point.
And they hadn't been reunited. So if you remember, they got together for the first time since Miracle on Ice to light the Olympic flame, right?
Oh, okay.
For the opening ceremony. So the whole team was there to do that, which was pretty cool. The first time they had all been together
Yeah.
since Miracle on Ice. So there's one other person that was on that team that I want to talk about. Brings me to Steve Kristoff.
Okay.
Kristoff. He played 248 regular season games in the NHL with the North Stars, the Calgary Flames, and the LA Kings.
Okay.
Grew up in Richfield, Minnesota. Went to Richfield High School. He was the team MVP his junior and senior years. Um, he was Minnesota High School All State first team and U.S. High School All American team during his senior year in 75 76. And they were the state runner up his senior season. He then went on to the University of Minnesota from 1976 to 1979. He led the team in scoring the second year he was there, 66 points, 32 goals, 34 assists. He led the team in scoring again his third year there, 77 points, 38 goals, 39 assists. Let's see. March 23rd, 1979, he scored a goal and an assist to help Minnesota win the NCAA title with a 4-3 victory over North Dakota. He He debuted for Team USA at the 1979 Ice Hockey World Championship Tournament in Moscow. Obviously, member of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team. He assisted on the game-winning goal for the U.S. against Finland.
Okay.
Uh, yes. Yes, against Finland. He was drafted. This is one of these guys I was telling you. He was drafted 24th overall in 1978
Okay.
by the North Stars. So drafted before the Olympics, but was still in college. You know, the North Stars had his rights or whatever. So then he joined the North Stars for 20 games after the Olympics.
Okay.
He scored 8 goals and had 15 points the next year. And there's a thing that says, I'll read this off. It says he set an NHL record for rookies with 8 goals for the North Stars during the 1979-1980 playoff series. So I'm not quite sure if that means just 8 goals. Is that an NHL record for
Yeah.
rookies as far as like playoffs? He scored
Yeah.
8 goals in the playoffs, or
Maybe
was that a
even
playoff series? He had 8 goals in a single playoff series. I'm not sure.
even
I
in the
wasn't.
whole. I don't know how far they went in those playoffs, but 8 goals as a rookie in the playoffs is a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Even if they
So,
play 12 games, you're almost scoring
and
a
it's
lot.
probably been broken by now, but at the time,
Yeah.
that was quite the accomplishment. Um, so, following year, he played 56 games. He had 26 goals, 39 points, and they lost to the Islanders in the Cup Finals. So, they were pretty good. Lost to his buddy Ken Morrow,
I was
who,
just gonna say, wasn't his friend on the team? Yeah.
yep. Then he was traded to the Calgary Flames, played his final season with the Kings in the 83-84 season. But what's interesting about this guy is that he was the model for the Hobie Baker Memorial Award.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm going to do a whole nother segment on the Hobie Baker because I want to give it its due.
Yeah.
But we'll touch on it a little bit here. So he's the model for the Hobie Baker Award. Uh, he was photographed as a skater. I don't know if you can see the award, but it's the pose or whatever is like a hockey player doing a like quick stop.
Yeah. Okay.
So they took a variety of photographs from a variety of angles
Yeah.
while he was doing that. Um, and then they made it into a charcoal drawing and then into a stick figure that was covered in clay and then plaster, baked in an oven.
Okay.
Finished product was the bronze trophy that became college hockey's equivalent to the Heisman Trophy. Goes to
Right.
it's the most prestigious symbol of individual excellence. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so every year they make 2 of those trophies. One goes to the Hobie Baker Award winner,
Uh-huh.
and the other one goes to the winner's college.
Okay.
The
Well,
original casting
yes.
of the trophy is on display where the Minnesota Wild play at the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
So Steve Kristoff, I was looking him up and I was reading a little bit about him because I came across this thing that he was the model for the Hobie Baker Trophy. And I was like, oh man, okay, let me check into this guy. So I was getting some conflicting reports on certain information about this guy.
Okay.
And I thought, well, Wikipedia's how trustworthy is that? I'm not
Right.
going to believe it. So I went to another source. It said something different. I went to another source. It confirmed what Wikipedia said. Went to another source, said something different. I don't know what to believe, right? So how trustworthy is a trading card, a hockey card,
Oh,
like, right? Wouldn't that information be pretty accurate? You would assume, right?
I would think that journalists write what's on there and fact check it. Whoa. Okay. Hold on.
So I got his card here. I don't know if it's reading backwards or not. Right now, what I want you to do, Stu, before we aired this podcast, I sent you pictures on your phone, told you
Oh,
not to
right.
look at them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Safe
So I
for
want
work. Pictures.
I want you to get on your phone there and look at the pictures I sent you. I sent you a picture of the
Okay.
front of this card and the back of this card.
Okay. Steve Kristoff, center, North Stars. I got it. No
Okay.
one would believe us if you're watching the podcast. I really didn't open
Yeah.
this.
So I found this pic, or I bought this card on eBay, right? I
Mhm.
want you to go to the picture that's showing the back of it, and I'm going to let you just peruse the back of that and read all that information until you see something that's interesting.
Okay. I'm going to read out loud so we don't have dead space.
Okay.
Um, was credited with an assist for the game-winning goal for USA versus Finland in the 1980 Winter Olympics. Nick did his
Yep.
homework. Set the NHL record for rookies with 8
hmm
goals for the North Stars during the 79-80 playoff series.
It
Okay.
says reconnecting for me again. Okay, now I'm good. Okay, go back up there to read off his stats. Height, weight,
Okay,
just keep reading down there.
180, right-handed. First
Yep.
pro season, 79-80. Acquired via a draft, born 1/23/58 in Springfield, Illinois.
What?
Whoa!
What? It's on his
Dude,
card, right?
that's wild.
It has to be true.
That's that's where we're from. If people don't know our podcast, hold on a second here. That's
It says his home is in Richfield, Minnesota.
yep,
Born
born
Springfield,
in
Illinois.
1958 in Springfield, Illinois. Says it right there.
Why have we never heard of this?
I, this is a good example of why Springfield sucks. How do you not advertise this? What's crazy is I got to see where Richfield is too a little bit just to make this about me. Okay, Minneapolis. It's right south of Minneapolis, north of Bloomington. If there's any listeners that are from Minnesota, I was born in a town called Wilmer, Minnesota, and moved to Springfield as a kid. Wilmer is
Okay.
pretty close, so this is my spirit animal. He
Yeah.
was born in Springfield and moved there. I was born there and moved to Springfield. But dude, how has that never been a thing?
And I work at the ice rink. How is this
I was
not
just gonna say,
plastered
you don't
everywhere?
have a plaque up in the ice rink, like,
We have a member from the 1980 Miracle on Ice team that was born right here in Springfield, and there is no
and it's
mention
not
of it.
on the rink.
No mention.
Not even a copy of his card that says,
Nothing on
hey,
the radar.
interesting.
Nothing.
You could do it this big. Just get my little notebook. This is a 5x7. Look, oh, this guy was on the 1980 Olympic team. Nothing.
Yeah. How crazy is that? And he's the model for essentially what is the Heisman Trophy in college hockey.
Which is even crazier, really, that not only were you at the Olympics, but it's the Miracle on Ice game. You get a point on the game winning goal in the gold medal, and then you're the Hobie Baker, which is the Heisman,
Yes.
the model. Imagine going out on the ice, taking stops, and somebody using you as the model. Kind of a trivia fact, but wouldn't you, at your local rink, embrace that trivia and say, here's a plastic $5 copy of the Hobie Baker because this guy was born here?
Yes. Yes. So,
And you got to
uh,
do it now. You have to take this upon yourself.
I, I'm way ahead of you, brother. So, when I was doing some research on this, and I stumbled upon this a little bit ago that he was from Springfield, and I just kind of thought nothing of it. It was on Wikipedia. I was like, surely we'd have heard of
Yeah, that
something,
might not be true. It's
And so, if you look him up on like Elite Prospects and different things like that, it says Richfield, Minnesota. No mention of Springfield. And I was talking to a guy at work about it the other day, and he was like, "Oh no, dude," and he's doing research because he was like, "What? There's no way this guy's from, Springfield." And then he's the one that actually looked up his card, and it was on his card, and he was like, "Dude, that's got to be true. That's got to be And I was like, "Well, I mean, you're probably right. Like that, they wouldn't make a card and then put." So, I mean, the only thing I can really think of is that he was born here and then moved away before he even started playing hockey.
Yeah,
Had to be.
or even they lived in Minnesota, and for some reason he was
They
born
were just
on
traveling
vacation or
through.
traveling, or
Yeah.
the Mary and Joseph traveling through.
Right. So, I mean, I was like, okay, well, let me do some digging into this. And so I got this card and
There
I
was a
was
big
like,
army depot in Springfield back in the old days. I wonder if his dad
yeah.
fought in the Korean War.
I- Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the story is. So, I don't know how reliable this information is, but you know how there's websites you can kind of track down people's addresses and send them stuff?
Nick's got Gordie Howe's Christmas ornament, and he's got Kristoff's underwear.
Well, this guy, I looked him up on Facebook. Not a lot of action, but it does say it looks like if you look him up on Facebook, it looks like it's his real profile, and it says from Springfield, Illinois.
Wow.
So I found his address. He went on to become a pilot, by the way, commercial airline pilot. He didn't play after he played hockey in the NHL for, like I said, 200 and some games.
And then
He
became a
was out
pilot. Okay.
and then became a pilot. So I found an address. I don't know if it's his. That's why I still have the card because I didn't want to send it to him and then not have it come back.
Yes.
But what I did do is the address is close to the airport, so it checks out. Um, but I did handwrite him a letter,
Oh.
and I just explained who I was. I'm in Springfield. I work at the rink. Stumbled upon this through my podcast, Studs and Scrubs. You should check it out. Um,
Nick is killing it.
what's the story? Like,
Yeah.
were you born here and then moved away? How long did you live here? Do you ever come back? Um, I said my son and I, and I'm probably getting a little stalkerish here. I'm whatever, but he's an American hero.
Yeah. I
He's
mean,
gonna get a
80s team. Come on.
yeah. So I said, hey, my son and I, we're actually going to Minnesota end of March.
Oh, right. For the
I'm
Wild
I'm
Cows game.
I'm gonna be up there. So I'm first of all going to look up the original casting that's at the XL Energy Center, find that. But also, I put in there my contact information. Maybe he'll reach out, maybe he won't. But about a page and a half, handwritten. Hey, um, I just interested in your story. I got your card, stumbled upon you being from Springfield. Don't know what the details are, but would love to just like meet up, dude. I'll have no problem taking you out to dinner
Yeah.
and just sitting down. Just let me hear the stories, and how maybe this guy's obviously way more famous in Minnesota where he's from,
Yeah.
but is this guy getting fan mail all the time?
Probably not.
So I just sent it earlier this week, so I haven't heard anything
I,
back.
I'm telling you, he gets less letters than Mike Eruzione gets. Let's put it
Correct.
that way.
But I also kind of wondered if maybe there was an uptick because of the Four Nations.
Oh, I'm sure there is, but
But also, he's not one of the main guys.
he's
Jim
not.
Craig, Michael Ruzioni, Callahan, those guys are more of the
Yeah, and there's
face of
certain
the
people
team.
get the face of the film as well, and I
Yeah,
don't know if that's for storyline or they were better actors or why, but there's like
yeah,
6 guys that are more on the highlight of the movie.
yeah. So I'm put in there about the Hobie Baker Award and just all that stuff. And so what my expectations are low. I don't expect to hear anything back.
Hmm.
Best case scenario, I go up to Minnesota, get to have dinner with this guy, sit down and chit chat, just listen,
Yeah,
picture, autograph, whatever. But I do think I want to try to get to the bottom of this. And it's like, hey, man, you should come back to Springfield sometime. We'll rename a room at the Nelson. I mean, I will. I'll call it,
I'll call it that.
yeah, the Kristoff conference room or
Oh, I
something.
love that.
Like,
Nick will be there with stencils and paint, going, "Look, I
yeah.
don't care what it's officially called. This is
Why
what I
wouldn't we?
call it."
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't we? How can we have a guy that's this is akin to, you know, Lincoln is in Springfield, right? That's the big to do, blah, blah, yeah. But, you know, Indiana tries to hold on and say, boyhood home of
Right. And it's funny that
Abraham
like
Lincoln.
Springfield, Illinois is
So,
so known for the Lincoln stuff, and it's exactly what you're saying. It wasn't he like born in Indiana, grew up in Kentucky, then moved to
yes,
Illinois as a young man, and then of course began his degree in
yes,
law and his political career in Springfield. But if
yes,
you're not from Illinois, you would never know. And actually, to be honest, unless you're from Central Illinois, you wouldn't know about New Salem and
right.
the historical town that he lived in as a young man. But
Yeah,
Springfield just hogs it. He lived in like six places. They say,
yeah,
He
yeah,
started his political campaign and became president here. We are the town. And
yes.
so, same thing with him. Yes, maybe he lived the majority of his life in Minnesota and he did his hockey in Minnesota.
But
You're
you're a son of
still
Springfield. You're a
from.
son of Springfield.
That's right. You're still from Springfield Hospital. I bet
So,
it's the same hospital. I bet you it's whatchamacallit.
right.
I'm drawing a blank on it, but
St. John or
St.
Memorial, yeah.
John's. Yeah, yeah, Memorial. Yeah,
So, very interesting to me when I saw that, and I didn't believe Wikipedia at first because I was like, that seems too, that can't be right.
right, right,
I've never heard anything about the model for Hobie Baker being from here or a member from the 1980 Olympic team being from here. So, so hopefully it wasn't like a bad breakup. Springfield did something to him, and he was like, "I'm out of here, never coming back." And now I've just,
right. He gets a letter like, "I hate that place."
but yeah. So very interesting. I thought you would like that and find that just kind of
I love that.
crazy.
And once again, hockey and geography always blowing my mind. But like
Yeah.
somebody from the '80s team is
How we not? We don't even have a sign, or like you said, a little plaque at the rink. I know that the
especially
rink
at the
wasn't
ice rink.
around.
I get that the whole city isn't shutting it down. That's fine. They do for Abraham Lincoln. Okay,
Yeah,
one of the greatest American presidents of all time. That's a
yeah,
little different. But the ice rink doesn't have
yeah,
something about the 1980s Miracle on Ice team?
yeah.
Come on.
So I would love to meet him and have something work out when I'm in Minnesota next month. I don't know that it will, and like I said, I don't even know if he'll respond to my letter. I don't even know if it's the right address that I sent
Yeah,
something to. But I just thought that that was super crazy.
that
Uh,
is. I mean,
I
I never
just blew my
know. Why
mind.
not? I mean, yes, it's a tiny bit stalkerish, but who cares? If they're a famous person. I know you're not.
Yeah,
Get
I'm just,
Tom
you know,
Cruise level
and we're from the
famous,
same
but like,
place. It's not like I'm trying to, it's a weird thing that it's like, well, I currently live right outside of
and
Springfield.
like
Like,
you said, hey, I was doing research for my hockey podcast. Like, we
you
talk
should come
hockey. That's
on.
what we do. Would you like to come on?
Yeah. So
And
I
even if
just,
you wouldn't, we're gonna talk on our podcast about meeting you.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I would love it if that worked out. Like I said, Eli and I are going up there next month. We're kind of gonna make it like a little guys hockey trip, like we
Yeah,
used to.
that's awesome.
Um, and so
Especially
if
he's a little
this,
bit older now. That's like fun. I'm going on a road trip with my dad. We're going to hockey trip
yeah,
with the men.
yeah,
That's cool.
yep. So um, here's a okay. I'll give you my little trip, and then you help me figure it out here. So we're gonna leave Thursday morning.
Okay.
We don't have to leave super early, but we're gonna leave Thursday morning. It's
Yep.
about an 8 hour drive. Get there, and then the game is that night.
Uh huh.
Um, so we'll drive. We'll get to the hotel around check-in time, do our thing, grab some food, get changed, whatever. Get to the game. Obviously, when doors can open, because I got to find this original cast. Neither one of us have been to that arena, so it gives us time to kind of check it out.
So the
Maybe
game
get
is
down for
Thursday.
warm-ups.
You're gonna drive the day of the game.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So I can leave here probably. If it's an 8 hour drive, I'm up kind of early. Eli can go back to sleep. If we're on the road at 7,
Yeah. Yeah.
8 hours is 3 o'clock.
3 p.m. Yeah. Even if something happens, traffic, whatever, you're there at 5.
Still there before
Yeah.
the game. Yeah. So, and then we're gonna stay there that night. be there all day Friday, sorry, and then stay there Friday night and come home Saturday.
Okay.
So the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame is in Minnesota,
Yeah.
but another like 2.5 hours north.
2.5 hours. Is it in Bemidji?
No, it's in
That's
I'm
far
drawing a
north.
blank on the name. But yeah, so then it's like, okay, if
It's
I'd
in
have known
Duluth.
that,
It's in
maybe
Duluth,
I would.
right?
What's that?
It's got to be in Duluth.
It was in like a small. I
Yeah.
didn't,
Well, that's a big
or
city
probably
for
like
northern Minnesota.
right outside of something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. So then part of me is like, okay, do I try to go to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame while we're there? That's another. That's an extra 5 hours of drive time though. So I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm gonna do that or
Elvis.
not. Yeah, I don't know if
I
that's a
don't know.
suburb of something or what,
Sorry for
but
all of our Minnesota fans that I don't know where Elvis is, but
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It looks like it's about
Yeah.
30 minutes north of Duluth.
Okay. Oh wow, still north of Duluth.
Yeah, still north. Duluth's right on Superior, and it's
Yeah.
more in the center. It's kind of like,
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, to be honest.
So part of me is like, when are okay? You're only going to be 2.5 hours away from it. I don't know that I'm ever going to be much closer.
Yeah, there, there must be one of the schools there. It's weird that it's.
Yeah.
I don't see much. I don't see much around. There's a really, really big mine, like some sort of copper mine, but
Mm. Yeah.
there's nothing
So
around there.
I might do that with them. I don't know. Friday originally was just going to be kind of a hangout, Mall of America,
Yeah,
hit up
Mall of
some
America is
stuff
pretty
around there.
cool, and the University of Minnesota is downtown. So
Okay.
you can do the Mall of America is in St. Paul, and then University of Minnesota is downtown Minneapolis. And as
Okay.
cold as it is, Minneapolis is connected through these sky bridges, like plexiglass,
Oh yeah.
so you can
Yeah.
stay warm.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know that it's cold, but it's Minnesota's really cold. So
Right. And even March here can be cold, so it's still going to be winter
yeah,
essentially.
it'll definitely be
Yeah.
all white still. There will be no green until April for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know much about the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame,
I
but
don't either. Probably
I
a lot
might
of
add
college
that to
stuff.
agenda. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. It might be a little far to because then you're going to
Yeah.
spend at least 2 hours there and lunch and stuff.
Right.
So it's a
Right.
full 8 hour decision.
It's a full day. Yeah.
And as much as it sucks, Eli's only 14, right? 15. He
Yeah.
might enjoy Mall of America and the university more. And don't tell your wife I said this, but there's going to be a lot more girls at the college than there's going to be in Elvis.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I was thinking then is see if I could do it. I'm trying to save on like lodging, right? So the hotel, but also I'm the only driver. So we're driving 8 hours on Thursday, and then Friday, if we drive up there, do that, and then I got to drive back to the hotel. Then Saturday, we could go, just whatever, sleep in, kind of take it easy Saturday morning, then go to Mall of America for a few hours, and then just
Yeah,
drive home later Saturday, not, late afternoon. Still, I'm getting home late,
you're getting home at 9
but,
or 10 p.m. Ooh, it could be a little
so
risky if a snowstorm comes. I mean, you
right.
might want
So
to
it
do
might
it by
be
ear.
kind of a play it by ear type situation, but
You
yeah,
know what you should do is sometime do some sort of invitational. There's like the Duluth Bulldogs play the Gophers in Duluth,
mm,
and go up there and do a hockey college game with Eli,
yeah,
and then go to
yeah,
maybe it's a different trip, and it's an excuse to go back.
right.
Nice.
So let's just tentatively pencil in Studs and Scrubs that Friday night.
Okay.
Game's Thursday. I'll be up there Friday night with my buddy Steve,
I
maybe.
like that. Let's pencil it in. Steve.
Pencil that in,
Yep.
and we'll see. We might do an episode up there with
Dude.
maybe just me and Eli. It might be an American hero on the podcast as
That's
well.
you
I
know
don't
what?
know.
We should do the pod that day no matter what, and we'll just let Steve know that there's an open chair if he wants it.
Yes, absolutely. So, Steve, if you're listening, because I sent you the letter, I told you about the
Right.
podcast.
He probably is listening.
Um, when I come up there, more than welcome to join our podcast
Yeah. And
and
to come back and live with me.
give us
And
the insights. Yeah, give us your go. Come on back, stay at my house.
yeah,
Like I said, we'll have a ceremony at the Nelson Center.
we'll get you
Um,
a horseshoe named after him, the Kristoff.
get your horseshoe. Oh,
People who
beautiful!
aren't from
It's
Springfield don't
beautiful.
know it's a food thing they do there. It will name
Yeah,
one after Kristoff.
yeah.
It'll be great.
Come back. We'll treat you like a true son of Springfield.
Yes.
Uh, more ties to the city than Abraham Lincoln, and it's what is it? Walk where Lincoln walked, or something.
Yeah, exactly. He's old news. That was like 200
Yeah,
years ago. We're on to Steve now.
yeah.
We're
This is
done with
going to be
Abe. We're on to Steve.
skate where Steve was born,
Skate
or
where,
something. Yeah,
skate where
yeah,
Steve skated.
yeah.
We
We'll
might
come up with
need him
something.
to skate to make that true. But
Yeah. So I would love that. I would love it if he came back, obviously. But I mean, if I could even just meet up with him, or even just heard back from him, if he just wrote me a letter back, or
well, you know
whatever, I
what?
could.
We won't get into it on the pod, but you have had an oddly strange success at just like reaching out to famous people and they reach out back. So I mean, you
Who
were on
knows?
in
Yeah.
NHL Network for the thing with
Yes.
McDavid and shaving your beard. If no one's
And I gave him too much power,
yes,
obviously.
obviously the beard. It's kind of like Samson. If you've ever heard that story from the Bible, when Samson cuts his hair
Yeah.
and loses his power, Nick shaved his beard, and it gave all the power to McDavid. That's actually why he's so good at hockey.
Yeah.
It's it's
And
kind of a
before you come
secret.
after me, that was like 7, 8 years ago. So it
Nice.
wasn't recent. I didn't do this, for the Four Nations Cup or anything, but
Yes, exactly.
so,
So that
but
dude, that's cool though. That's a cool story, and I'm gonna hope that we're just gonna speak it.
I
We're
will,
speaking out there in the universe. You're gonna meet
yeah, let's
Steve.
put it out there, speak it out there. Let's, you know, uh, good vibes,
Manifest it.
and we will see. We'll definitely have some follow up on this.
Yes, for sure. We'll let everyone, listeners, know whatever happens, good, bad, or ugly. We'll tell the stories.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
dude, that's
But
great.
I just thought that was just so crazy and so random. First of all, for those two things, a member of the 1980 hockey team, and it would be cool enough.
Oh yeah.
Model for the Hobie Baker Award would be crazy enough. But the same guy, it's one person, and he was born in Springfield, and there is zero mention of it from the city.
That is so
I'm going to
crazy.
change that. That needs to
I
change.
think so. Let's make this a key feature for this year.
Yes.
Nick is going to be season 1 of the Studs and Scrubs podcast is going to come down to the plaque in the rink dedicated to Steve Kristoff.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I love that.
So, but yeah, I thought you would find that pretty crazy.
I do. I did not expect that at all.
That's why I didn't want you to look at the
good
picture
history lesson.
I wanted you to find that out on the podcast.
That
I wanted
was
a
good.
live reaction.
Yeah, because you were reading the stats, and I was kind of like, okay. I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, that's not that many points, but there's something Nick like wants to stress. Obviously, I can't figure it out. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So.
All right, that's good, there, dude. That's all I got. We're gonna meet up with him. We're gonna tell the story. That's gonna be the purpose of the pod now. Anything
Tell
else?
your dad that, because I don't know how. I honestly, like, the guy at work. He's played hockey all his life, and he's like, I never knew that.
No way. I bet.
So,
And that's my dad's age group. He was a little bit too young, but people like 5 years older than him were on the team. In fact, somebody he knows was a friend. He went to the thing they show in the movie where they're trying out and they get cut.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
final cut. It was across the whole country. They had like 4 cuts, and my dad's friend made the one before that.
Okay.
So the final one had like 100 guys there for the 20-man roster. And there was thousands and thousands of people. So they do it in the movie where they're coming in and signing who are you in the regional qualifiers. They actually had a lot of rounds that you got cut down.
Yeah.
And so they were pretty good. And I mean, that guy played for the University of Wisconsin and went semi-pro. He played for the Chicago Wolves. So I mean, and he didn't make the team, so they were pretty darn good. But anyways, that's cool, dude. I'm gonna head out and then now with a new mission in life to help you get Steve on the pod. Okay. That's great, dude. Thank you for sharing. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
Kick on the ice.
All right. Do you believe in miracles? Yes.
Yes. Yes.